Meet our Demon King protagonist, currently trapped in a fantasy loop where heroes always raid his castle. This hero party bursts through the doors, shouting cliches about justice prevailing over evil. Standing before them is the ultimate boss himself, calmly waiting for their inevitable final showdown. He accepts this heavy destiny with a quiet sigh, knowing how this script always plays out. Introducing himself as Leruslia Nord, the 100th Demon King to rule over the underworld. While the armored hero readies his glowing blade, Leruslia wonders when this endless cycle actually started. Long ago, humans labeled all demons as evil, wiping them out under the banner of righteousness. Naturally, the demons fought back to survive, leading to a brutal war with casualties on both sides, until both factions were locked in a perpetual struggle, pointing their weapons at each other's throats. Leaving absolutely zero room for peace talks as the senseless violence just kept piling up. Now, the winner of this foolish game gets to rule a completely devastated world, but humans always fear absolute power, making the Demon King's defeat an inevitable historical event. Though Leruslia is not sweating the details since they are already past the point of no return. Charging forward, the hero clashes directly with the Demon King's dark magical energy. Backed by divine blessings, the party channels the power of gods and spirits to tip the scales, unleashing their ultimate trump cards in a fierce struggle where neither side is willing to back down, because history is always written by the victors, ensuring that justice apparently prevails in the end. Right on cue, a glowing blade pierces straight through the Demon King's defenses, sending him reeling as the hero lands the decisive blow right on target. And as the light fades, Leruslia realizes his long reign has finally come to an end. Even with their perfect lineup of a Swordmaster, Saintess, and Archmage, the narrative remains completely unchanged. Because in the eyes of the world, the heroes are always justice while he is evil, prompting the armored warrior to demand why the dying Demon King is suddenly laughing at him. But Leruslia only stares back with a look of profound exhaustion rather than malice. Instead of plotting a counterattack, his final thoughts drift toward a promise made to a friend, remembering how he was supposed to visit a sweet little demon girl named Iris tomorrow, who would always greet him warmly as her favorite uncle before this tragic end arrived. Tears well up as he laments how his people will be mercilessly hunted down without him, leaving the hero to process the heavy weight of this unexpected and heartbreaking confession. Realizing that the supreme ruler of the underworld is genuinely telling the absolute truth, with his remaining breath, Leruslia points out the sheer absurdity of their endless cycle of violence, noting that while the Holy Church labels his kind as pure evil in their teachings, humans and demons are fundamentally the same once you look past the propaganda of war. He challenges the warrior to open his eyes and question the Church's bloody crusade, hoping that a spark of empathy might finally change how humanity views his people, or perhaps even pave the way for a peaceful future where both races can coexist, which leaves the silent hero standing in deep contemplation as the magical light begins to fade. Gripping the hilt tightly, the warrior finally gives a quiet nod of understanding, promising to believe the Demon King's words and look beyond the lies he was taught, swearing that he will no longer discriminate against demons as the light completely consumes them. Leruslia smiles as he fades away, thanking the hero for finally listening to his final words. But as his consciousness slips away, he suddenly realizes the armored hero was actually a woman, though he still cannot figure out why the Saintess was glaring at him with such intense hatred. Not that it really matters anymore for a dying Demon King who is about to completely vanish. Believing that this hero might actually change the future, he lets go of his final breath, bringing a supposed happy ending to the world, except things do not exactly go according to script. Suddenly, a gentle voice calls out his name as a warm light begins to break through, revealing a kind-looking woman smiling down at him and welcoming him to a brand new morning. Staring back in utter confusion, he quickly realizes this gentle lady is actually a human, leaving him to wonder what kind of bizarre trap she could possibly be planning next, only for her to gently scoop him up while calling him a very good boy, which is when the horrifying truth of his current situation finally starts to sink in. Turns out this sweet human lady is actually his new mother, and he is a baby. Despite his desperate struggle to process this madness, the sheer warmth of her embrace makes him sleepy, reminding him of the ancient demon myth about souls transcending the boundaries of their species, allowing them to be reborn into completely different life forms after their physical bodies perish. A legend he never actually believed until he woke up inside this wooden crib himself. Even with his tiny new body, his mind remains completely intact as he remembers everything, from the cherished days spent alongside his loyal demon comrades in the underworld, right down to the exact moment the hero's glowing blade brought his previous life to an end. Reaching up toward his colorful crib mobile, Leruslia wonders why he kept his memories of being the demon lord, especially since his current daily routine consists entirely of eating, sleeping, and staring at the ceiling. But compared to his stressful past life of endless paperwork and brutal wars, he is incredibly free. When a maid suddenly enters the room, he realizes his new family is wealthy enough to afford servants, prompting him to ask how many years have passed since his defeat, before remembering babies cannot talk, leaving him stuck in his crib wishing he could at least crawl around to gather some intel. Suddenly, the maid pulls out a wooden wand to prepare some hot water for his bath, chanting a bizarrely broken spell to summon a tiny, pathetic flame from her fingertips. which absolutely shocks our former Demon King due to her incredibly terrible grammar and execution. Since basic fire magic should not require any chance or tools, he realizes human magic is severely underdeveloped, though he quickly remembers that he has not actually tested his own magical capabilities in this new body yet. Clenching his tiny baby fist, he prepares himself for disappointment since humans naturally possess far less mana, only to unleash a massive, swirling vortex of crimson magical energy that completely fills the room. Realizing with absolute shock that his original demon lord mana actually transferred over along with his soul. However, his underdeveloped infant body struggles to channel the sheer volume of this immense power smoothly, meaning he will need some serious training to master his old abilities without blowing himself up. Swearing that he will become strong enough to protect his new life and avoid another tragic end. Fast forward 7 years later, the story shifts to a peaceful, sunlit human village. Inside a quiet library, a glowing red aura gently lifts a heavy spellbook off the table, revealing our 7-year-old protagonist effortlessly levitating multiple books at once with his overpowered demon lord magic. Although he was initially worried about his human body, Luru has successfully managed to control his magic. Now going by the name Luru Caddy's Nora at just 7 years old, he knows his full power could easily obliterate an entire village, making testing it way too risky. But magic is not the only thing he has figured out during his time here. Looking back on the fateful day he was defeated by the legendary hero, this kid realizes that several thousand years have actually passed since his previous life ended. That massive time gap explains why the world has changed so drastically, until a voice calls out, revealing his sweet human mother peeking into the room to check on him. She smiles warmly as she notices the heavy book cradled in his tiny hands, asking if he is reading up on those old myths about the ancient demons again. Stories of a race that once waged war on humanity but has now faded into legend. Teasing him about his love for reading, she chalks it up to a kid's natural fascination with fantasy, unaware that her son is actually plotting to find any surviving demons left in the world, though being stuck in a 7-year-old body means he cannot even leave his peaceful village yet. Suddenly, his mother mentions that Patrick will be returning home from his travels very soon, hoping his father might bring back some new books for their little scholar in 2 weeks, who happens to be a renowned sword instructor and the respected lord of this village. Luru smiles at the thought of finally receiving some proper swordsmanship training from him again, only for his mother to suddenly panic, realizing she got completely sidetracked from her original errand, reminding him that his friends are already waiting outside to play with him today. Luru's mother practically shoves him out the door, warning him that he is going to be late, prompting our reincarnated demon king to sprint down the dirt path while apologizing in his head. But as he crosses the stone bridge, a familiar voice suddenly calls out to him, revealing his 3 childhood friends waiting impatiently for him to finally show up today. Standing in the middle of the quiet village, they immediately call him out for his terrible timing, with their self-appointed leader demanding to know why he took so long to get here. Luru sheepishly explains that he lost track of time while reading, leaving the others completely baffled, especially since an energetic boy named Rusty believes real men should only care about wild adventures. Watching his friend strike a dramatic pose, Luru can only sweat drop at the kid's endless enthusiasm, though a sassy blonde girl named Mia quickly points out he has not even passed his basic training. This reality check instantly deflates Rusty's ego, making Luru wonder when they will ever leave this village, while a sweet silver-haired girl named Yuri gently chimes in to defend Rusty's big dreams. Despite their constant bickering, these 3 have been Luru's closest companions since his unexpected reincarnation. And turns out, both girls actually harbor secret crushes on the oblivious orange-haired swordsman, which explains why they secretly dread the idea of him leaving them behind for the capital. Deciding to change the subject, Luru asks Rusty about the special promise he made for today, a question that instantly jogs the boy's memory and gets him incredibly hyped up all over again, leaning in close to whisper that the moment they have all been waiting for is finally here, because a group of actual high-ranking adventurers is supposedly arriving in their quiet village today. Dismissing Yuri's reminder about merchant guards since he only cares about the real deal, Rusty continues hyping up this legendary trailblazer, completely lost in his own wild imagination, while the rest of the group can only sigh at his unstoppable enthusiasm. Running through the streets, the kids join the crowd rushing toward the village entrance, but their excitement instantly deflates the moment they actually arrive at the scene. Finding absolutely nothing but a quiet dirt path and a few confused villagers, Luru calmly points out that the legendary guests simply have not arrived yet, leaving an impatient Rusty practically vibrating with anticipation as he waits for their grand arrival. Unable to sit still, the hyperactive boy dashes ahead to search for them, prompting our reincarnated demon king to quietly reflect on the concept of adventurers. Noting how humanity now relies on them to reclaim lands that once belonged to his empire, he wonders if this decay is due to time or something far more sinister, only for a sudden blood-curdling scream to shatter his train of thought. A massive, 3-eyed tiger monster leaps out of the foliage, terrifying the nearby villagers, and it is charging directly toward Rusty, who is completely frozen in fear, preparing to unleash a quick burst of his crimson magic to save his friend. Luru is suddenly interrupted by a sharp wind spell chanted by a beautiful elf, which instantly traps the roaring beast in a powerful, swirling green vortex. At that exact moment, a grinning warrior leaps down from the sky with a massive sword, delivering a brutal, decisive strike that puts an end to the beast once and for all. Our young protagonist can only watch in silence, completely stunned by this unexpected display of power. As the defeated beast dissolves into purple mist, the warrior stands triumphantly over the trembling boy, turning around to address the terrified kid who is still trying to process the sudden rescue. And with a friendly grin, the massive swordsman asks if he got hurt during the chaos. Rusty stares back in absolute silence, his mind completely blown by the incredible display of strength, before suddenly exploding into pure excitement over how incredibly cool the warrior looked in action. His childhood friends quickly drag him back, reminding him to show some proper manners and say thank you, prompting the beautiful elf to smile warmly while expressing her relief that everyone is safe and sound. While Luru watches her closely, sensing something highly unusual about her presence as he steps forward. This energetic boy eagerly asks if she is some kind of magical spirit due to her pointed ears. But she playfully corrects him, introducing herself as an elf named Yumi's who was born after spirits. Her companion introduces himself as Gran, a seasoned warrior traveling alongside her on their grand adventures, leaving Luru to quietly analyze their impressive mana levels, which are far superior to any normal villager, noting that these two are indeed highly capable fighters as Yumi's mentions the dreams of local kids. She asks if they also want to become adventurers, earning an immediate and passionate shout from Rusty. This hyperactive boy proudly declares his ultimate goal, making the two seasoned travelers chuckle at his enthusiasm, though Gran gently places a hand on his head to offer some realistic advice, warning him that the path of an adventurer is incredibly dangerous without serious training and proper skills. Our young swordsman enthusiastically promises to work hard, earning a hearty laugh from the impressed warrior, who offers to share some thrilling stories if the kids guide them to the local inn first, leaving the girls to sigh in exasperation, wondering if boys ever grow out of their childish fantasies. Whispering playfully, Yumi's asks Luru if the relationship dynamics between his childhood friends are a bit complicated. But our reincarnated demon lord quickly clarifies that he is merely a neutral observer in their drama, prompting the beautiful elf to lean in close while teasing him about the two adorable girls. She jokingly advises him to stake his claim early, leaving Luru completely speechless at her questionable parenting tips. With a smug grin, the former demon king replies that watching from the sidelines is far more entertaining, which instantly earns him a look of pure disappointment from the highly judgmental elf. Deciding to change the subject, Luru politely offers to guide her to the local inn for some rest, earning a sigh of relief from Yumi's as she complains about the constant monster attacks along the road. Shortly after, the scene shifts to a rowdy tavern filled with clinking glasses and loud laughter, where the local villagers gather to enjoy some drinks while discussing the mysterious ruins nearby. Gran heartily laughs while teasing his elven companion for getting so incredibly worked up over old stone structures, though Yumi's quickly fires back with an embarrassing story of her own to defend her curiosity. Meanwhile, Rusty watches the seasoned adventurers with absolute adoration, completely captivated by their heroic vibes. A curious villager then asks Yumi's if they traveled all this way just to inspect the local ruins, explaining that nobody actually knows who built the ancient, moss-covered stone dome on the outskirts. Smiling mysteriously, the slightly tipsy elf hints that she might actually know the truth behind its creation, sending a sudden jolt of shock through Luru as she mentions the ancient demon race. Standing up dramatically with her drink, she confidently declares that the mysterious stone structure near their village must have been constructed by ancient demons, leaving our reincarnated protagonist completely frozen in disbelief. However, Gran immediately laughs off her wild theory, pointing out how incredibly rare actual demon ruins are. Luru watches the tavern girl pour another drink, quietly agreeing that Gran's skepticism makes total sense, because even though he can recognize real demon ruins with a single glance, proving it is impossible, especially since the rest of the world has already written his entire race off as a myth. Meanwhile, Mia eagerly asks Gran if they spend all their time investigating ancient ruins like this, but the warrior chuckles, explaining that monster hunting is their actual job while exploring is just a hobby, prompting Luru to realize these two are not traveling on some official guild mission after all. They are just wandering free spirits, living the dream without being bound by any strict rules. Until Rusty suddenly interrupts the cozy atmosphere by shouting the veteran swordsman's name across the table. This hyperactive kid boldly declares his dream of becoming a legendary adventurer right then and there, clenching his fist as he begs the massive warrior to take him on as an apprentice, only for Gran to instantly shut him down with a blunt and hilarious rejection. Rusty immediately bursts into tears, completely devastated by the sudden reality check from his idol. While Gran scratches his head, explaining that rookie adventurers mostly just do boring chores anyway, he adds that he simply cannot afford to babysit a kid on the road right now. But Rusty refuses to back down, proposing a clever loophole to secure his future mentorship, which absolutely cracks Gran up, sending him into a massive fit of hearty laughter. Admiring the kid's sheer audacity, the warrior agrees to train him once he actually earns his license. leaving Luru highly impressed by his friend's surprisingly sharp negotiation skills as Rusty cheers in victory. Yuri smiles warmly at the boy's happiness, even if the deal is technically a long way off, while our reincarnated Demon King relaxes, confident that his friend's high potential will carry him through. While Rusty celebrates his future apprenticeship, the girls watch from the other side of the table, feeling a bit conflicted about how quickly their hyperactive friend is growing up without them. Suddenly, the beautiful elven traveler sneaks up behind them and completely startles the two girls, laughing off their dramatic reaction while playfully apologizing for interrupting their private conversation. Yumi's eagerly kneels down to join in, asking if they are having some juicy girl talk, specifically wondering if they are currently dealing with some classic childhood romance troubles. This girls immediately blush and deny everything, claiming they are only worried about Rusty's clumsy nature. But the clever elf merely smirks, knowing exactly which boy they are actually thinking about. She points out that Rusty will definitely leave the village to chase his grand dreams one day, asking if the girls will truly be content just staying behind and watching him walk away. Before they can answer, a loud clap suddenly echoes through the lively tavern. As the tavern keeper sternly orders all the kids to head home because it is getting late, Luru's mother gently approaches her son, suggesting they should also start heading back for the night, prompting our reincarnated Demon King to quietly reflect on how interesting their new guests truly are, while Rusty is practically dragged out the door, still desperately wishing he could hear more heroic stories. Walking down the quiet dirt path, Luru listens to the peaceful sounds of the night, feeling that familiar, slightly melancholic loneliness that always creeps in after a lively celebration. Noting that this bittersweet sensation remains exactly the same no matter how many lifetimes he lives, his mother suddenly breaks the silence, softly wondering if her son will also leave her behind one day, before quickly brushing it off with a gentle smile as they walk home hand in hand. Luru simply smiles at his mother's gentle words, accepting the quiet warmth of the moment. As they walk back home together under the beautiful, star-filled night sky, dreaming of the future. This next morning brings a peaceful dawn over the lush forests surrounding their quiet village, where our reincarnated Demon King is already hard at work practicing his swordsmanship, executing swift, precise movements as he steps forward to perfect his physical form, unleashing a rapid flurry of strikes that cut through the morning air with incredible speed. Before finishing his intense routine with one final, powerful swing of his wooden blade, standing amidst the swirling dust, he takes a moment to compose himself after the workout, wiping the sweat from his brow while reflecting on his elite knight father's strict training, knowing he must keep his overpowered demon lord abilities hidden to avoid raising any suspicion. But his peaceful morning walk is suddenly interrupted by a commotion among the local villagers, prompting his childhood friend Mia to run up to him with a deeply panicked expression, clutching her hands together as she struggles to find the words to explain the situation, before finally blurting out the terrifying news that Rusty and the others have completely vanished. Luru can only stare back in absolute shock, trying to process this sudden, dangerous development, while Mia explains that she has been searching for them since early this morning without success, instantly reminding him of how desperately the hyperactive boy wanted to follow the legendary adventurers yesterday. Realizing his reckless friend must have snuck out of the village to find them, our young protagonist recalls Yumi's mentioning the ancient ruins, which lie in the opposite direction, and he immediately promises to join the search, dashing off to rescue his foolish friends. Remembering his mother's warning, Luru runs anyway because those reckless kids are his first real friends. As he dashes through the village streets, catching the attention of the beautiful elven traveler, who is surprised to see the young boy running straight toward the danger zone, immediately warning him to stay back while she prepares to seal off the entire village, beginning a powerful chant to summon a protective wall before Luru desperately shouts for her to stop. He quickly explains that Rusty and the other kids are completely missing, catching her off guard, pointing out that the reckless trio likely snuck out of the village to explore the ruins. But the elf sadly apologizes, explaining that she cannot halt her magic once it is cast. Unleashing her spell, a massive green hexagonal barrier instantly locks down the entire perimeter, leaving Luru frustrated as she explains that protecting the remaining villagers must be her top priority. But their conversation is cut short by a massive explosion that rattles the ground beneath them, revealing a terrifying mechanical wasp monster hovering menacingly in the sky above the trees. Yumi's explains these ancient weapons came from the ruins, forcing her to rush back and defend them, prompting Luru to narrow his eyes as he realizes the sheer scale of this sudden threat, recognizing the mechanical beast's legs as deadly magic cannons designed by ancient demons to slaughter humans. While this village is safe behind the barrier, these flying weapons will easily devastate neighboring towns, and as Yumi's continues her explanation, she notes that the ancient structure seemed completely normal at first, until the walls collapsed and unleashed a massive army, leaving Gran behind to fight the boss alone. Deducing that the ruins were a trap, Luru realizes there must be a central control device nearby. And with a determined look, our reincarnated Demon King tells Yumi he must leave immediately. Yumi stares at him in absolute shock, completely unable to process his sudden demand. She firmly refuses to drop the barrier, reminding the young boy that he is just a kid, explaining that only the original caster has the authority to let anyone pass through the wall. but our reincarnated demon king simply places his hand against the glowing green hexagonal structure, unleashing a surge of crimson magical energy that instantly begins to override her defensive spell, leaving the beautiful elf completely terrified as she watches her own magic get effortlessly hijacked, while Luru casually apologizes, explaining that he is simply rewriting the magic equation to claim ownership. Yumi screams in utter disbelief, knowing that altering an active spell is supposed to be impossible. But the overpowered kid just walks right through the barrier while tossing out one final detail, revealing that he actually boosted the barrier's overall strength by utilizing her very own mana pool, which effectively locks her inside the safe zone to guard any villagers who might return. With a confident smirk, he tells her he is counting on her before heading toward the ruins, prompting the trapped elf to slam her hands against the wall, desperately screaming for him to wait. Before she sinks to her knees, completely baffled by the monstrous talent of this random village kid. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to the ancient stone ruins, where a dark and crumbling entrance awaits. Inside, Gran stands protectively in front of the trembling children as a massive stone golem looms ahead, warning them to stay absolutely still because the ancient guardian likely only targets moving objects, leaving the veteran warrior completely paralyzed, unable to make a single move to save them. Suddenly, Luru dashes into the chamber, calling out to the massive swordsman who looks back in shock. Gran demands to know why he is here while our protagonist calmly explains the situation outside. Gran immediately orders Luru to hide with the other terrified kids, leaving no room for argument. But our reincarnated demon king is relieved to see his friends are safe before analyzing the enemy. Identifying the massive stone golem as a Rups Gigantes, an ancient machine originally built for civil construction, which means he is currently the only one capable of shutting down this ancient threat. Knowing these titans possess the same deadly accuracy as the flying mechanical wasp outside, Luru casually steps forward, completely ignoring the veteran warrior's panic shouts to get back, as Gran desperately begs the reckless kid to stay away from the active guardian. While his childhood friends scream his name in absolute terror, fearing the worst, our protagonist simply reassures them that he will be fine, placing his trust in the massive swordsman, before taking another bold step toward the towering stone golem looming in the distance. This ancient machine's single red eye flashes menacingly, locking onto the young boy's movements. Yet it remains completely motionless, humming with dormant magical energy as he approaches. Luru realizes the Guardian is programmed to only attack if they get too close to the ruins. Gran mutters in confusion, wondering why these ancient weapons are specifically guarding this crumbling structure, prompting our hero to silently note that he has absolutely no memory of building this place, deducing it was constructed after his death before announcing his plan to investigate inside. This veteran warrior instantly objects, refusing to let a child risk his life for their mistake, pointing out that a mere village kid could not possibly possess the strength to fight such monsters, leading our overpowered protagonist to quietly process the giant swordsman's protective warning, before flashing a confident smirk and asking if everything will be fine once he proves his power. Luru asks if proving his capability means he is allowed to enter the ruins, and before the stunned warrior can even finish answering, our protagonist dashes forward, charging straight toward the towering stone guardians while Gran desperately screams at him to stop. This massive golem's single red eye flashes menacingly, locking onto the tiny intruder, as it swings its colossal stone weapon down with enough force to crush him, but Luru effortlessly leaps high into the air, enveloped in a dark crimson aura. With a calm expression, our overpowered kid prepares to unleash a devastating counterattack, delivering a single punch that completely shatters the giant weapon into tiny pieces. This leaves the veteran warrior and the rescued kids staring in absolute jaw-dropping disbelief, yet Luru simply lands back on the ground, completely unfazed by his own ridiculous power. Smirking at the second guardian, he casually raises one hand to block its incoming strike, catching the massive stone weapon with his bare hands as if it weighs nothing, before swinging the giant blade to effortlessly obliterate the remaining golem in one clean sweep. Gran can only sweat in sheer terror, wondering what kind of monster he is dealing with, while Luru turns around with a smug grin, asking if his skills are finally sufficient. This defeated swordsman sighs, admitting he cannot argue with that strength but must set some conditions, insisting that either he or Yumi's must accompany him inside this highly dangerous structure. He orders the kids to head home first, warning Luru not to explore any deeper alone, which our protagonist easily agrees to, flashing a reassuring smile to ease their worries. Luru bids his friends farewell, leaving Rusty to realize just how far ahead their friend truly is. This kids apologize for causing so much trouble, warning Luru to stay safe as they head back, while our protagonist simply waves them off with a reassuring smile, ready to handle the rest. Turning back toward the dark entrance of the ancient ruins, he prepares to step inside alone. Once inside, Luru easily locates the main control room and places his hand on the glowing interface, effortlessly shutting down the entire network of magical machinery with a single touch of his hand. But as he digs deeper into the system, he notices something highly unusual about the security data. Realizing there are absolutely no long-range offensive weapons registered anywhere in the entire facility, which means those terrifying mechanical beasts outside were actually programmed to focus strictly on defense. This sudden realization makes him wonder if these ruins were built to preserve something incredibly valuable, and after pulling up a map, he spots a massive hidden chamber at the very bottom. He desperately wants to explore it, but remembers his promise to the giant veteran warrior. Deciding to play nice and wait for Gran to return instead of rushing ahead alone, sitting quietly in the empty stone corridor, the silence is broken only by the sound of footsteps, prompting Luru to close his eyes as he tries to recall his forgotten past life. Remembering a time when a similar building was filled with the lively laughter of his friends, suddenly a familiar voice calls out to him, snapping our young hero out of his thoughts. Revealing Gran, who apologizes for being late and asks if the kid is doing all right. Luru quickly puts on a brave face, smiling warmly as he reassures the worried swordsman. Blaming his slight shivering on the chilly underground air rather than his heavy, nostalgic memories, he asks if the machinery has stopped, and Gran happily confirms that everything is perfectly shut down. Gran asks how he stopped the giant machines, but Luru just claims he touched random buttons, prompting the veteran warrior to sweat drop as he remembers how furious Yumi's was about her hijacked barrier. But our casual protagonist simply suggests he can easily rewrite the spell again to fix it, leaving Gran completely dumbfounded as he explains that altering active magic is supposed to take several minutes, which makes Luru silently wonder if modern mages have somehow lost the basic art of spell rewriting. Promising to lift the barrier later, the overpowered kid points toward a mysterious room further inside, leading the duo down a quiet corridor until they finally arrive at their destination, where a massive, heavily sealed stone door blocks their path to the deepest part of the ruins. Gran tries pushing against the heavy structure, but the giant door refuses to budge even an inch, deducing that they must satisfy some ancient conditions or find a key in the previous room. Luru complains that backtracking is too much of a hassle, knowing there was nothing back there anyway, so he casually reaches out to touch the wall to find a shortcut, instantly triggering the pink diamond gem on the door to glow with vibrant magical energy. As a robotic system voice suddenly echoes through the chamber, analyzing his magic waves for confirmation. This ancient security system identifies him as the 100th king, matching his soul to Leruslia Nord, leaving Gran completely oblivious to the massive lore drop happening right in front of his eyes, while the automated voice asks if the registered user would like to release the lock. Our reincarnated demon king internally panics at the sudden recognition before quickly commanding the door to open, prompting the system to register his command as the glowing pink gem flashes once more. And with a heavy mechanical rumble, the ancient locking mechanism finally begins to rotate. This heavy stone door slowly slide open, revealing a blinding white light from the chamber within. Luru casually asks if they should head inside, prompting a very nervous nod from the giant swordsman. Stepping onto the surprisingly soft floor, the duo cautiously makes their way into the futuristic room. Both of them instantly freeze in absolute shock as they lay eyes on the strange chamber. Standing right in the center of the dome is a massive, glowing white egg-shaped capsule. Our protagonist immediately recognizes it as an ancient long-term hibernation pod built specifically for his demon clan. Realizing this technology was meant to preserve his people, he desperately wonders if the project actually succeeded. His legs begin to tremble as he takes a few hesitant steps toward the mysterious device. Praying with all his heart, the young boy silently begs for one of his old comrades to be inside. He eagerly presses his face against the glass, hoping to catch a glimpse of the sleeping occupant. Resting peacefully inside is a beautiful white-haired girl, whom Luru instantly recognizes as his dear friend Iris. Memories of her cheerful smile flood his mind, reminding him of the tragic war that tore them apart. Tears well up in his eyes as he realizes he has finally reunited with her after thousands of years. Gran breaks the silence by panicking loudly, demanding to know why a random human is sealed in here. Our clever hero silently notes that modern humans have completely forgotten what ancient demons actually look like. Keeping her true identity a secret, Luru calmly suggests that the mysterious girl might still be alive. This veteran warrior scratches his head, agreeing that they should probably try to open the capsule and check. Luru stares at the high-tech pod, silently trying to figure out how to bypass its ancient locking mechanism. Deciding to trust his instinct, he reaches his hand out to replicate the same magic trick from earlier. Unleashing a surge of crimson magical energy, his palm makes contact with the glass to initiate the override. This ancient hibernation pod suddenly warns Luru to halt his dangerous manual override sequence. But our stubborn protagonist commands the automated system to prioritize saving the girl inside, prompting the machine to comply as the heavy glass cover finally begins to slide open. Cold mist pours out of the capsule, slowly revealing the sleeping form of his ancient comrade, while Gran breathes a sigh of relief, noting that the mysterious girl is indeed alive. Staring at her peaceful face, Luru is instantly hit with a wave of intense nostalgia. Recalling a fond memory of her father, Bacchus, excitedly celebrating her upcoming birth long ago, and how the proud demon warrior eventually wept tears of joy watching his daughter grow up. This sweet girl had always brought immense happiness to everyone around her in their past life, but the warm memory fades as the pod seal fully releases with a sharp hiss, drawing Luru's attention back to the present as the beautiful white-haired demon begins to stir. Slowly opening her eyes, she gazes blankly at the unfamiliar ceiling of the ancient chamber, leaving the nearby duo completely silent as they anxiously wait for her to fully wake up. Suddenly, her eyes flash with a hostile crimson light, prompting Gran to shout a panicked warning. but a massive shockwave of dark magic instantly blasts the veteran swordsman across the room, as our shocked protagonist demands an explanation while she raises her glowing hand again. Luru suddenly realizes why his old friend is acting so incredibly aggressive toward them, because she has absolutely no idea that her beloved commander has been reincarnated as well, meaning she only sees a human child standing beside a warrior of her sworn enemy clan. After all, humans and demons have been locked in a brutal, bloody war for thousands of years. Iris glares down with absolute hatred, muttering about the disgusting humans standing right in front of her. She immediately charges up a lethal sphere of dark magic, declaring they both deserve to die. This hostile reaction forces our protagonist to realize just how deeply the ancient blood feud runs, but before he can even explain the situation, the enraged girl prepares to strike him down. Her mind is completely consumed by the painful memories of the brutal war from her past, recalling how humans and demons were locked in an endless cycle of slaughtering one another. Driven by this ancient trauma, she unleashes her full power directly at the seemingly defenseless kid, screaming for the human to perish as she releases the devastating magical blast. A blinding explosion of purple energy completely engulfs the chamber, shaking the ancient ruins to their core. As the smoke clears, the tearful girl whispers a quiet promise to her fallen commander, swearing that she will eventually avenge his death no matter what it takes. Suddenly, her eyes widen in absolute shock as she senses an incredibly familiar magical signature nearby. Emerging from the dust completely unscathed, Luru casually gathers a sphere of crimson energy in his palm, flashing a warm, nostalgic smile while complimenting her on how much her magic has improved, before splitting the energy into several floating droplets just like he did in his past life. Back then, the great demon king would always use this exact trick to entertain the children. Now, Luru begins juggling the glowing spheres in a perfect, mesmerizing spiral, leaving the stunned girl to stare in disbelief as she recognizes his signature technique. Tears of pure joy stream down her face as she realizes her beloved lord is actually alive, while Luru gently calls out her name, confirming that their long-awaited reunion is finally real. Luru warmly explains that her beloved commander has finally returned to see her after all this time. And the sudden realization instantly brings tears of pure joy to the young girl's eyes. Without wasting another single second, she dashes forward across the cold metallic floor, throwing her arms around him while crying out for her long-lost lord in absolute relief, though Luru silently notes how incredibly weird it feels to be the exact same height as her. Peeking over her shoulder, our young protagonist suddenly remembers the giant veteran warrior he brought along. Finding Gran slumped against the wall and snoring peacefully after merely losing consciousness from the blast, but Luru's thoughts quickly drift back to the surprisingly weak magic bullet she fired earlier, remembering that her magical abilities were actually far less developed during their previous life together. As the white-haired demon continues to sob hysterically while clinging to his shoulder, our casual hero cannot help but let out a tiny, teased chuckle at her dramatic reaction, prompting her to puff her cheeks in anger since she was genuinely planning to avenge his death. Suddenly, she freezes as a massive wave of confusion finally washes over her mind, questioning why his voice sounds so different and how he ended up in this tiny body, wondering if he went into hiding after their legendary battle against the ancient heroes. Luru gently pats her head, telling her she is asking way too many questions at once, before pointing toward the back of the room to check on the poor swordsman she blasted, leaving the girl completely horrified as she realizes she accidentally attacked her commander's new ally, while Luru reassures her that Gran is actually a very kind and understanding person, suggesting they can easily blame the whole thing on a random mechanical malfunction to save face. Luru glances back at the sleeping warrior, whispering that they should talk before he wakes up. Sitting down on the edge of the platform, our boy suggests they catch up in private, which instantly brings a bright, adoring smile to the loyal demon girl's face. Settling in next to each other, our protagonist wonders where they should even begin, asking if she finds it hard to believe he is actually her former lord, but she immediately rejects the doubt, declaring that her beloved commander is still himself. Touched by her unwavering loyalty, Luru calmly asks how she can be so absolutely certain, prompting Iris to point out his signature trick of juggling those glowing magic spheres. She explains that only the legendary Demon King possessed such flawless, high-level mana control, though our casual protagonist points out that her father, Bacchus, could also do it, only for Iris to laughingly admit her dad was actually terrible at fine mana control. While the elderly researcher Mythos was far too obsessed with his books to care, mentioning her older sister Rohem next, the two share a quiet, knowing look of agreement, as these simple, everyday memories of his old comrades bring genuine tears to Luru's eyes, realizing he cares about his fallen people far more than he ever consciously admitted. This young girl quickly apologizes for bringing up what she assumes is a painful past, but he reassures her that hearing about their old friends actually brings him immense comfort. Suddenly, her expression turns serious as she leans in closer to inspect his face, pointing out that his current physical form is undeniably that of a young human child, leaving our reincarnated hero sweating as he tries to figure out how to explain reincarnation. Although Iris never hated humans, her expression back then was filled with pure, unadulterated disgust, making it incredibly hard for her to accept the bizarre reality of the situation. So Luru decides to just lay it all out and explain his literal reincarnation, trying to get her to understand that he is indeed her former lord, leaving the poor girl completely dumbfounded as she struggles to process the crazy news. She slowly pieces it together, realizing her beloved commander was reborn into a human body, which our smug protagonist happily confirms with a bright, reassuring nod of his own, explaining that he now has a perfectly normal human mother and father in this life, describing them as incredibly gentle, kind-hearted people who treat him with absolute love. Hearing about his peaceful new life instantly washes away all of Iris's lingering anxiety, prompting her to happily declare that she no longer has any reason to hate humanity, though she casually mentions she used to get pretty violent while trying to avenge him, before frantically backtracking and claiming she never actually did anything too terrible to them. For instance, she once gathered a demon squad to completely wipe out a human army, or left threatening death notes under soldiers' pillows, which Luru notes is already incredibly extreme. But her chaotic stories make him realize that the demon race might actually still survive, wondering if the humans ever launched a massive campaign to hunt his people down, which Iris sadly confirms, admitting that a brutal holy crusade was indeed launched against them. This ruthless campaign was led by the church, nearly driving their entire race to extinction, leaving Luru utterly shocked to hear that the crusade suddenly stopped for some reason. Luru learns that humanity's unified crusade against the demons suddenly ground to a halt midway, and Iris explains that the war did not just stop, but rather it physically could not continue, revealing that humanity split into two factions, one led by the church and the other by the hero. This shocking revelation leaves our young protagonist completely stunned as he processes the news, realizing his former rival actually kept her promise to protect his people after his death. Iris notes the ultimate irony of the hero's faction now actively shielding the demon race, though she admits she has no idea what happened to the rest of the world afterward. She recalls being captured by a mysterious force during her guerrilla days and waking up in hibernation, prompting Luru to wonder who could possibly capture a powerful demon without taking a single scratch. This only clue she remembers is a sweet scent and the faint silhouette of a hooded woman, but despite the mystery, the grateful demon girl is just glad she survived the ordeal, because it ultimately allowed her to reunite with her beloved commander in this new era. Hearing her heartfelt words, Luru gazes at her with a soft, deeply touched expression, while Iris gently grabs hold of his sleeve, refusing to let him go again, expressing just how incredibly happy she was during their past life together. She fondly remembers how he always made time to celebrate her birthday despite his busy schedule, contrasting those warm memories with the absolute despair she felt upon hearing of his demise. Leaning her head against his chest, she confesses that this reunion feels completely like a dream, begging him never to overexert himself again while Luru gently apologizes and pats her head, reassuring her that his new human body will not allow such reckless stunts. They share a peaceful moment. Iris wonders how she can stay by his side now that he is a human, asking if any of the other surviving demons are even aware of his reincarnation, prompting Luru to look at her with a serious expression and ask her to listen closely, gently breaking the news that the era of demonkind has already long since passed, explaining that over 1,000 years have gone by and the entire world has changed. This heavy truth makes Iris realize that her people have likely been completely wiped out, though Luru reassures her that some survivors might still exist as legendary ancient myths, leaving the young demon girl to process the painful reality of her lost civilization. But she quickly tries to smile, claiming she is already used to sudden, painful goodbyes. Hearing her talk so casually about death and loss deeply hurts our young protagonist, recalling how she was forced to witness her closest friends perish when she was just 10, as Luru clenches his fists in silent regret for failing to protect his people back then. Looking down in shame, the former demon king softly apologizes for letting everyone down, but Iris immediately offers him a warm, incredibly comforting smile to ease his guilt. She steps forward, gently reminding him that he did absolutely everything he could back then, insisting that the demon race would not have survived nearly as long without his leadership, declaring that her beloved commander was always much more than just a powerful ruler. Turning back to look at him as she calls him their ultimate source of hope, touched by her words, Luru silently addresses her late father Bacchus in his mind, proudly noting with a soft smile that his old comrade's daughter has grown up beautifully. Even with his reassurance, the demon girl still worries about her place in this new era, fearing that people will try to capture her if they discover her legendary identity. But Luru points out that the unconscious swordsman is already traveling with an ancient being, meaning the average person has absolutely no idea what a real demon even looks like. Now our boy just has to figure out how to convince his mother to let her move in. Right as the battered warrior finally groans and slowly pushes himself up from the floor, rubbing his aching head while squinting at the bizarre duo chatting right in front of him. Meanwhile, Iris eagerly suggests hiring her as a maid, which our protagonist immediately rejects. As the veteran swordsman suddenly remembers the terrifying red blast that knocked him out cold, he suddenly barks out a loud shout, instantly startling both of them out of their conversation, drawing his massive blade while demanding to know what the hell is actually going on. This white-haired demon stares back at him with a completely calm and unbothered expression, which only makes the confused warrior yell even louder for some actual answers, prompting the young girl to blink in surprise as she realizes he is genuinely terrified. Luru quickly steps in to defuse the tension, waving his hands and claiming it was all a misunderstanding, and Gran slowly lowers his weapon, admitting that her intense bloodlust has indeed vanished. Still, he demands to know why she decided to blast him through a wall earlier. Leaving the embarrassed demon girl to quickly blame the entire incident on mistaken identity, she softly explains that he briefly resembled a mortal enemy of someone very dear to her, offering a polite and deeply sincere apology that leaves the tough swordsman completely speechless. Gran assumes she was driven by a tragic quest for vengeance to master such high-level magic, leaving our young protagonist to sweat as he realizes how easily the swordsman bought the story. And with a sudden shout, the veteran warrior decides to put the past behind them, cheerfully declaring that they should just write the entire violent encounter off as a complete accident. This generous offer brings a relieved smile to both of our young heroes' faces, prompting Iris to bow politely in gratitude while the embarrassed swordsman begs her to drop the formalities. Turning his attention to their next move, Gran wonders what they should do with the mysterious girl. Which is exactly the cue Luru needed to explain that she has absolutely nowhere else to go. Hearing that she was trapped here alone, the warrior agrees she would likely end up in the slums, deciding that the best course of action is to bring her back to their peaceful village. As they prepare to leave the dark chamber, a shower of loose pebbles falls from the ceiling, prompting Gran to wonder aloud if this place was actually an ancient ruin of the demon race. While our reincarnated hero silently notes that the connection is undeniable even if he cannot prove it, looking back at the massive stone structure, he feels incredibly grateful for the chance to find Iris, realizing he no longer has to carry the heavy secrets of his past life entirely alone, since he now has a loyal companion who truly understands the weight of being a demon lord. This two share a quiet, deeply meaningful look of understanding as they walk side by side. Though the oblivious swordsman quickly ruins the moment by suggesting they return with their researcher friend later, he gets incredibly hyped up about the massive discovery, predicting they will be swamped with work. Leaving Luru to smugly tease the excited warrior about his impending fame and fortune, Gran points out that Luru is going to be just as busy as the rest of them, prompting Iris to eagerly suggest that her beloved commander deserves full credit for exploring the ruins. But our boy quickly points out that nobody would ever believe a 7-year-old pulled this off. This veteran swordsman smugly counters that everyone will believe it once he starts spreading the word, sending Luru into a quiet panic as he realizes how easily secrets slip from drunk adventurers, especially since both Gran and Yumi's have some of the absolute worst drinking habits imaginable. Our young protagonist pauses to weigh his options, wanting recognition without exposing his past life. Knowing that standing out too much in this era will only bring endless trouble to him, thankfully, Gran laughs it off and admits he was only joking about blabbing to the public, reassuring the tense kid that he knows how to keep his mouth shut when it matters. Luru deadpans that first-rate adventurers apparently have first-rate jokes, making the warrior laugh sheepishly, relieved to see that the veteran truly has no intention of spreading his secrets around. Realizing that these humans might actually be trustworthy enough to confide in eventually. As they walk away, Luru decides to think things over before they return in a few days, right when a sudden, violent tremor shakes the entire cavern and sends massive boulders crashing down, completely burying the ancient entrance under a massive pile of rubble and sealing the ruins shut, leaving Gran to sigh in exhaustion while Luru casually notes that these things just happen sometimes. Inspecting the debris, the warrior laments that their only real loot is some scattered giant parts, though Iris cheerfully points out that bringing home anything at all is still a win, before she suddenly stops in her tracks with a curious look, murmuring a quiet warning. Gran chuckles, jokingly predicting that their researcher friend Yumi's is going to cry over the lost ruins, and the trio begins their trek back through the forest to reunite with the angry elf. Leaving our young protagonist feeling incredibly anxious about facing her wrath after his reckless stunt, he recalls how he casually rewrote her proud barrier magic, which is bound to offend her. But the veteran swordsman cheerfully announces their return as they finally reach the glowing boundary, only to find a terrifying green aura flaring up from the forest floor ahead of them. Yumi's glares at them with absolute fury, her eyes glowing with pure, unadulterated rage. Standing tall inside her barrier while the three travelers freeze in their tracks under her gaze, prompting Luru to offer a weak, trembling greeting as she shadows her face in anger. She immediately explodes, screaming at him for running off alone and messing with her spell formulas, making the panicked kid silently beg his companions for some desperately needed backup, though Gran just sweat drops and admits there is absolutely no stopping her once she starts. Meanwhile, Iris secretly smiles, finding the sight of her beloved commander getting scolded strangely nostalgic. This furious elf keeps ranting, demanding to know if the reckless kid is even listening, pointing out how easily he could have been cornered by ancient machines outside the barrier, forcing our reincarnated hero to drop to his knees and apologize for his dangerous behavior. Softening her tone, Yumi's mentions she made sure his childhood friends got back home safely, adding that she covered for his secret magic by telling his parents he was with Gran, which earns her a deeply grateful bow from the relieved boy as he thanks her. However, when he asks her to dissolve the barrier, she sheepishly admits she physically cannot do it. Stepping forward with a calm smile, Iris gently places her hand against the glowing barrier, instantly shattering the high-level elven magic into a shower of harmless pink crystal shards. leaving the proud researcher completely speechless as she stutters in absolute disbelief at the display, while the smug demon girl innocently asks if they can finally head home now. This casual display of overwhelming power leaves the entire group sweating in sheer awkwardness, prompting Iris to secretly admit she just wanted some petty revenge for her beloved commander. Luru quietly sighs, pointing out that she really should have helped him during the scolding instead. But the exhausted swordsman quickly cuts in, suggesting they finally call it a night. He tells the grumpy elf to head straight to the inn while he escorts the kids, though Yumi's makes sure to point a threatening finger demanding a full explanation tomorrow morning. With the angry researcher gone, Gran cheerfully asks our young protagonist to lead the way home. As the trio finally enters the quiet village streets, they spot a familiar silhouette waiting ahead, revealing Luru's mother standing in the shadows with an incredibly tense and worried expression. Our reincarnated hero freezes in his tracks, suddenly feeling a massive wave of guilt wash over him, while his mother stares back with eyes full of deep, unspoken anxiety and exhaustion. She softly asks where on earth he has been all this time, her voice trembling, forcing the nervous kid to look down and sheepishly claim he only went to the ruins, prompting her to step forward and raise her hand as if to strike him in anger. But her face quickly crumbles into tears of pure relief, showing her immense love for him. She takes a shaky step forward, completely overwhelmed by the terrifying fear of almost losing her son. She pulls him into a tight, desperate hug, burying her face in his shoulder, sobbing as she tells him just how incredibly worried she was about his sudden disappearance, prompting our guilty protagonist to softly apologize while explaining that he simply had to go. His mother sniffs, admitting she already knew he had a good reason for running off, wiping away her tears with a gentle smile as she accepts his quiet apology. Turning her attention to the veteran swordsman, she asks if her son was actually helpful, which Gran immediately confirms by explaining that ancient machines were about to attack the village, adding that Luru single-handedly saved the entire village from suffering some incredibly serious damage. She wonders if his martial arts training is responsible, while the two gaze silently sweat drop, deciding it is definitely best to keep quiet right when a polite voice interrupts them. Our boy's mother blinks in surprise, asking the unfamiliar white-haired girl who she might be, prompting Iris to bow with perfect grace and introduce herself with a charming smile. She smoothly explains that she was sealed to sleep inside the ruins until these two saved her, weaving a tragic tale about losing a loved one and falling into an enemy's trap, lamenting that so many years have passed that her parents are surely long gone. This heartbreaking story immediately moves the emotional mother to tears, and she hugs her tightly, cheerfully declaring that the poor, lonely girl must come live with them right away. Iris plays the modest victim perfectly, hesitating to accept such generous food and shelter, but the excited mother insists, dragging a very confused Luru into the conversation for backup, leaving our young hero to sweat as he realizes his mother did all the hard work for him. Luru's mother enthusiastically offers to adopt Iris on the spot, completely bypassing any normal legal procedures, planning to immediately write a letter to her husband Patrick to finalize the sudden adoption, leaving the flustered demon girl to nervously stutter as she tries to correct the overbearing woman. But the excited mother gently insists that she start calling her mom right this instant. Blushing deeply, Iris reluctantly mumbles the word under her breath while sweating from the sheer awkwardness, which instantly triggers another tight, squealing hug from her incredibly delighted new guardian, prompting the confused girl to silently plead with her commander for some kind of rescue. Luru just deadpans and telepathically tells her to accept her new life as his sister, while Gran chuckles and points out that gaining noble status overnight is actually a massive win. Preparing to head out, the swordsman asks the kid to meet him at the inn tomorrow morning, making sure to invite Iris along too before they all finally head off to bed. This veteran warrior waves goodbye as the newly expanded family heads inside for a peaceful night, leaving our reincarnated hero to marvel at how his ancient subordinate just became his little sister. Fortunately, the night passes without any more chaotic surprises, keeping the village completely safe and quiet. This next morning, Luru and Iris arrive at the inn only to find a heavy atmosphere, spotting a very grumpy elf and a tense swordsman waiting for them at the table, as Yumi's glares at him with crossed arms, demanding to know where they should begin. Once everyone takes their seats around the wooden table, the interrogation officially begins in earnest, prompting our boy to casually ask what they want to discuss, making Gran sweat nervously. This veteran warrior leans forward, seriously asking how a 7-year-old learned to rewrite high-level elven barrier magic. Luru offers to share his secret on one condition, demanding they swear a binding oath first, prompting Yumi's to immediately agree, though her suspicious aura instantly triggers our hero's danger senses, leading Luru to casually reveal that he already cast a secret lie detection spell on her, which leaves the startled elf sweating as she tries to deny feeling any magical flow, only for her answers to a series of rapid-fire questions to completely fail the test, exposing her as a total liar who has been fabricating her responses from the very beginning. Leaving her completely speechless as our protagonist stares her down with an intense glare, Yumi's quickly defends herself, claiming she has no bad intentions even if she must tell someone, explaining that as professional adventurers, they are legally obligated to report major findings to the guild master, though Luru counters that he will only speak if they bind themselves with contract magic. Gran chuckles and agrees, pointing out that underestimating their companion's capabilities is always a massive mistake, making the embarrassed elf apologize, admitting she only wanted to test his character first. Sensing her genuine sincerity this time, our protagonist quietly smiles and accepts her apology, before asking if she still plans on reporting his secret abilities to her superiors, inspiring her to eagerly ask if he can teach her that contract magic instead. Admitting that explaining his complex spell-altering methods to the guild sounds like a massive headache anyway. Turning to the veteran swordsman, Luru asks if he is also on board with keeping quiet, an idea Gran easily confirms, noting that since they got zero loot, omitting details is no big deal, allowing our relieved protagonist to realize just how incredibly laid back his new companions actually are. As he finally turns to Iris, who happily promises to follow whatever decision her beloved commander makes, Luru raises his hand, conjuring a glowing red thread of magic to initiate a binding contract. He formally addresses both Yumi's and Gran, preparing to bind them to absolute secrecy, promising to reveal his and Iris's deepest secrets under the penalty of magic, which instantly manifests as glowing pink chains wrapping tightly around the startled elven researcher. And with a sudden flash, the contract is sealed, leaving both adults completely stunned. Sitting back down, our young protagonist casually prepares to drop a massive truth bomb, bluntly revealing that he and Iris are actually ancient demons from a bygone era, leaving his companions staring back at him with wide eyes and absolute speechless disbelief, prompting Yumi's to nervously ask if he is just playing some incredibly bizarre joke. Our boy sweat drops, admitting he honestly has no idea how normal people are supposed to react, which causes the frustrated elf to slam her hands down and yell in exasperation, pointing out that ancient demons are widely considered to be nothing but myths and delusions, before demanding to know how on earth he plans to prove such a wild claim, to which our hero calmly replies that his spell-altering abilities should be proof enough. A logical point that immediately shuts her down, forcing her to groan in defeat, though the veteran swordsman quickly speaks up to point out a massive plot hole. Gran notes that Luru's parents are well-known human nobles with a fully documented family tree, making it highly confusing how he could possibly be an ancient demon by blood, leaving our reincarnated hero struggling to find a way to explain the concept of reincarnation. So he decides to pivot, asking Yumi's what she would want to be if reborn. Yumi's happily explains that she knows all about rebirth, finding the concept of circulating souls incredibly romantic, leaving Luru and Iris completely dumbfounded as they try to process her surprisingly poetic take on the matter. Deciding to just roll with it, our protagonist explains that her understanding actually makes this whole conversation much easier, bluntly revealing that he was reborn from an ancient demon commander into his current human body, which finally explains his human lineage and leaves the shocked elven researcher completely reeling at the revelation, before he casually adds that he and Iris actually knew each other in their previous lives. This massive bombshell leaves Gran utterly stunned as he tries to piece their bizarre timeline together, suddenly remembering her tragic story from the ruins and asking if her quest for revenge was just a lie, though the white-haired girl quickly shakes her head, insisting that every single word she spoke was the absolute truth, pointing directly at Luru as she explains that her beloved commander was the precious person she lost, while smoothly pivoting to claim that our young hero was actually a close friend of her father. She fondly recalls how the legendary demon lord took incredible care of her during her childhood years, earning him her deepest admiration despite her young age and the chaotic state of the world. But their peaceful days were cut short when a brutal era of endless war consumed the land, forcing her beloved commander to constantly fight on the front lines to protect his people from destruction, ultimately leading to his tragic demise while his loyal subjects were unable to stand by his side. Devastated by the loss, she swore to seek absolute vengeance against the cruel world that took him away, only to get captured and sealed inside that ancient stasis pod until Luru finally woke her up, prompting a deeply moved Gran to quickly apologize for ever doubting her tragic and complicated past, with the clever demon girl quietly admitting that while her story was not a lie, it was not entirely accurate either. Yumi's accepts Iris's apology, but she still has one major question lingering in her mind. She admits that being ancient demons is fine, but the hierarchy between them seems incredibly suspicious, pointing out that a demon serving another demon implies a massive power imbalance from their past, prompting Luru to look down solemnly as he prepares to drop his biggest secret yet, casually admitting that he actually had every single demon under his command in his past life, revealing his true identity as the legendary 100th Demon King, Leruslia Nord, to his stunned companions. This mind-blowing revelation instantly sends the elven researcher into a state of absolute screaming panic, while our boy just shrugs it off, claiming his old royal title is not actually important, which only makes the frustrated elf slam her hands down and yell at his ridiculous nonchalance, blushing furiously as she insists that being the literal Demon King is a massive deal. Yumi's quickly turns to Iris for confirmation, only for the loyal girl to happily verify everything, bragging that her commander once blasted a massive hole straight through a mountain during battle, leaving the two adults sweating as she casually recalls ancient human heroes who crossed their borders. Gran takes a moment to process this, seriously asking why Luru chose to share this information, prompting our young hero to smile and explain that he simply wants to get along. Pointing out that as a mere 7-year-old child, his freedom to act is severely limited, meaning he needs to stay in his peaceful village while slowly gathering news about the world. This veteran swordsman immediately catches on, asking if they are meant to be his outside connection. But Luru clarifies he just wants them to visit occasionally and share stories over drinks, hoping their travels might eventually help him track down his other lost comrades from the past. Luru casually shrugs, admitting he does not need them to be walking encyclopedias anyway, explaining that he really just wants some reliable friends to chat with occasionally. Gran scratches his head, completely disarmed by the kid's surprisingly wholesome and straightforward request, but the veteran swordsman quickly raises a finger to pause the emotional moment, pointing out that as professional adventurers, they still need some kind of practical incentive. This prompts Gran to propose a single condition, catching our young hero off guard. As the warrior leans in and enthusiastically invites Luru to join their clan, Iris tilts her head in confusion, prompting Gran to explain what a clan actually is, describing it as a loose, voluntary alliance of multiple parties under the guild's umbrella, where experienced veterans freely share their knowledge and skills to help rookies grow stronger. Our boy points out that kids can only officially register as adventurers at age 14, asking which existing clan they are even supposed to join in the meantime, to which Gran proudly declares that they will simply build a brand new one together. Luru silently calculates the offer, realizing that learning from these high-ranking veterans is a massive win, and with a confident smirk, he decides to accept the long-term deal. Shaking Gran's hand to seal the promise of joining their future clan in 7 years, this swordsman waves his hand in farewell as they prepare to head out, promising to build a legendary organization while Yumi smiles warmly beside him. Iris cheerfully waves goodbye, eagerly looking forward to her future debut as an adventurer, leaving Luru to quietly turn to his loyal subordinate as their guests finally depart. Luru explains his ultimate goal is to discover why he was reborn and what happened, before turning to Iris and asking if she will join him on this journey, prompting the loyal girl to happily pledge her absolute devotion to her commander. Though our young hero points out that he still needs to convince his family, he nervously wonders how his parents will react to the news of his departure, only for his mother to suddenly call them inside because the sweets are ready, leading them to a table set with a freshly baked tart and tea, where his mother casually drops a bombshell by asking if he is leaving the village. This sudden question leaves our reincarnated protagonist completely speechless and sweating in panic, as she gently explains that she always noticed him staring longingly into the distance, making Luru realize just how obvious his melancholic thoughts about his past life were. But while his mother is supportive, she warns him that his father is another story. Iris curiously asks about his father's personality, which Luru describes as generally calm, though he possesses a quiet strength and is notoriously strict when teaching swordsmanship, prompting his mother to jokingly ask if he plans to fight his dad for approval, an idea Luru quickly dismisses since defeating his father right now is basically impossible, leaving Iris to watch him with a warm smile, appreciating his normal childhood side. Deep down, our hero remembers his past regrets and vows to do things right this time. As the scene shifts back to the peaceful mansion where they currently reside, showing Iris chatting with his mother in the kitchen about her delicious home-cooked meals, Luru's mother hands him a freshly packed lunchbox, which our young hero happily accepts with a smile. She kindly asks if he plans on hanging out with his usual group of friends today, suggesting that he should take this perfect opportunity to finally introduce Iris to the neighborhood kids, before suddenly handing a second, beautifully crafted lunch basket over to the completely startled demon girl. Iris frantically offers to stay behind and wash the dishes to earn her keep, but the sweet mother gently pushes her out the door, wishing them a fun day. Soon after, Luru proudly presents his loyal companion to his 3 childhood friends in the village, introducing the trio as Rusty, Mia, and Yuri, while the red-haired boy immediately begins to blush, leaving Iris to quietly marvel at how perfectly her former commander has integrated into human society. Rusty nervously extends a hand to greet her, his face turning completely red from sheer embarrassment, triggering a sudden, painful memory of humans screaming in terror at her silver hair and red eyes. Recalling how they were once feared as cursed monsters during their previous lives thousands of years ago, realizing that times have truly changed, she smiles warmly at this peaceful new era of the world, happily shaking the young boy's hand as she appreciates how time can wash away ancient prejudices. Suddenly, she senses an incredibly heavy, suffocating aura of hostility radiating from nearby, turning her head only to find the 2 local girls glaring at them with absolute fury, making her realize they are not hostile toward demons, but are just incredibly jealous of Rusty's reaction. Luru quickly breaks the awkward tension by reminding Rusty about their scheduled swordsmanship practice session, prompting the flustered boy to run off while leaving Iris alone with the 2 fuming girls, who continue to stare her down with intense jealousy, leaving our poor demon girl sweating in panic. Iris innocently asks the 2 glaring girls if Rusty did something wrong to upset them, leaving the local duo completely speechless as they sweat under her pure, unbothered gaze. Realizing she is totally oblivious, the girls whisper about how she missed his obvious blushing, prompting Yuri to bluntly explain that the poor boy's face turned red because she is cute, Meh nervously begs Iris to leave Rusty alone if she does not actually share his feelings, which only makes our ancient demon girl giggle softly at their adorable childhood drama. This lighthearted reaction instantly annoys Yuri, forcing Iris to quickly wave her hands in apology, explaining that she was simply reflecting on her own surprisingly dense nature, before casually dropping a bombshell that her heart already belongs to someone else. Suddenly, the two hostile girls completely change their tune, leaning in close for the gossip, as Iris blushes and mentions her mysterious crush is quite a bit older than her. Curious about the age gap, Meh eagerly asks exactly how many years they are talking, while Iris visualizes her ancient commander and admits it is way beyond 20 years, an answer that absolutely blows the young girls' minds as they assume she is dating an adult. Whispering frantically, the duo tries to narrow down the candidates in their small neighborhood, instantly imagining the veteran adventurers Gran and Patrick and looking completely horrified at the thought. Despite their sheer panic, they grab her hands and passionately vow to support her forbidden love, forcing the bewildered demon girl to just nod along with a very awkward smile. She quietly sweat drops over her vague answer while her new friends pump themselves up, fondly remembering how she used to have these exact same conversations thousands of years ago. Yuri huffs about how boys never understand a girl's feelings, complaining about Rusty's dense behavior. Before she and Mia suddenly lean in close to ask Iris if she has a crush, catching the ancient demon completely off guard as she hesitates to answer. Flashbacks of her tragic past flood her mind, reminding her of the family she lost forever. But she quickly snaps back to reality when the girls call out her name, asking why she is spacing out and eagerly dragging her along to watch the boys, making Iris smile warmly as she realizes these are her very first real human friends. Until a sudden, powerful gust of wind from the training field interrupts their peaceful moment, drawing her gaze toward the clearing where her beloved commander is currently practicing. Gazing at the boy and realizing that her most important person is still right by her side, she silently vows to do everything in her power to protect him without any regrets. Meanwhile, the girls sit down to watch the boys, with Yuri bringing up Luru's incredible strength, prompting a confused Iris to ask what exactly happened back at the ancient ruins, as Mia enthusiastically describes how Luru effortlessly blasted away a horde of giant monsters, debating whether his power comes from his legendary father or his own relentless work ethic, mentioning that he packs a lunchbox and trains tirelessly from the crack of dawn. Hearing this, Iris gets a brilliant idea and immediately rushes back to the mansion, nervously approaching Luru's mother in the kitchen while clutching her hands together, before looking up with a determined blush to ask her for a massive favor, hoping to learn how to cook so she can finally make Luru his daily lunchboxes. Hearing the sudden request, Luru's mother claps her hands in pure delight, thrilled by the idea of her adopted daughter finally asking for a favor, which immediately flusters the demon girl as she frantically tries to explain herself. She nervously asks if it is truly all right to be called a daughter, prompting the kind mother to realize the poor girl has been harboring deep anxieties. Gently kneeling down, she pulls the emotional Iris into a warm, comforting embrace, looking directly into her eyes with nothing but genuine love and affection, as she confesses her sincere desire to officially welcome her into the family. This mother explains that everyone needs a reliable support system and a home, wanting to provide that exact safe haven for her no matter what happens. But she playfully notes that Iris's heart might already belong to Luru. When the startled girl asks why, the mother points out her obvious devotion, teasingly suggesting it stems from Luru being the first person she saw upon waking, which naturally fostered some incredibly special feelings between the two of them, amusedly asking if Iris seriously expected to be treated like a mere servant. Gently placing a hand on the young demon's head to reassure her, declaring that she wanted to build a true home for both of them. This heartwarming gesture makes Iris reflect on the concept of having a family, remembering her ancient comrades who have long since faded into distant history, leaving her to view Luru and his wonderful parents as people to be deeply respected. Luru's mother smiles warmly at Iris, who is deeply touched by her kind words. Tears stream down the young demon girl's face as she apologizes for getting so emotional. Gently patting her head, the sweet mother reminds her that she still has not made her request. Iris nervously gathers her courage and asks if she can be taught how to cook. She explains that she wants to learn Luru's favorite flavors to make him daily lunchboxes, hoping to bring a smile to her beloved commander's face with her own home-cooked meals. Hearing this adorable confession, the excited mother squeals with absolute delight at the romantic potential, eagerly pointing out that since they are not actually blood-related by the kingdom's laws, there is absolutely nothing stopping the two of them from getting married in the future. She enthusiastically offers to teach Iris the exact recipes she used to win over her husband, noting that Luru already seems to harbor a very special affection toward his new sister, which makes the blushing demon girl realize her current position is actually incredibly advantageous. Pumped up by the encouragement, Iris passionately vows to do her absolute best in the kitchen, and the two of them immediately get to work preparing a delicious-looking stew together. While stirring the pot, Iris curiously asks how the mother first met her strict husband, prompting the woman to happily reminisce about their first encounter 15 years ago, casually revealing that she used to work as a holy priestess back in the day, which completely shocks the young demon girl who never expected such a holy background. She explains she was an itinerant priestess of the highly influential end times religion, traveling from town to town where she was always warmly welcomed by the local citizens. Iris is completely caught off guard, finding it hard to believe this sweet woman was once a holy priestess. Especially since ancient demons used to view those holy warriors as mortal enemies to be eliminated on sight. Yet she has not sensed a single drop of hostile divine energy radiating from her during their time together. Giggling softly, the mother blushes and begins to recount a story from her days traveling as an itinerant priest. Recalling the terrifying moment her carriage was suddenly ambushed by a massive, bloodthirsty bat monster on a mountain path. With the guards easily defeated, she found herself completely cornered and helpless against the beast's razor-sharp claws, closing her eyes in absolute terror as she prepared to accept her grim, unavoidable fate. Suddenly, a dashing young knight leaped into action, slicing through the beast with a single, powerful sword strike, leaving the young priestess sitting in the dirt, completely stunned by her sudden salvation. Turning around with a charming smile, the handsome savior asked if she was hurt, instantly stealing her heart. Back in the kitchen, she explains that despite his gruff attitude, something inside her just instantly clicked, making Iris look utterly speechless when the mother casually declares she knew she was going to marry him. She laughs and clarifies it was not a mere wish, but an absolute certainty of their future destiny. Right after thanking him, she immediately asked where he was stationed before they went their separate ways, prompting Iris to marvel at her sheer determination when she reveals she requested a transfer to his local church. This proud mother declares that such bold moves are absolutely necessary when you truly love someone, though she admits the real challenge began because Patrick was an incredibly popular and handsome young knight, attracting crowds of admiring women who constantly swarmed his fortress to leave him countless romantic gifts. Watching from the shadows, she realized he was just an ordinary soldier who did not care about the attention, especially since he routinely gave all those fancy presents away to his fellow guards without a second thought. Luru's mother decided to give Patrick a gift that would not just be given away like the others. So she nervously approached a guard at the fortress gate to deliver her special package, blushing furiously as she requested the basket of home-cooked food be handed directly to Patrick. Back in the kitchen, Iris realizes that winning a man's heart truly starts with his stomach. Hoping that a similar culinary strategy might work wonders for her own romantic goals, she eagerly asks if this exact plan will succeed on her beloved Commander Luru, prompting the mother to flash a teasing smirk and ask if she is ready to try. Our adorable demon girl enthusiastically agrees, completely determined to master the art of cooking, while the excited mother promises to teach her all of Luru's favorite secret recipes. Sometime later, a basket filled with freshly prepared sandwiches sits ready for a picnic, where Luru takes a bite and happily asks if Iris made them herself. Leaving the other kids to stuff their faces while praising her incredible cooking skills, Luru mentions that as an adventurer, he wants to gather rare ingredients from demon territories, looking at her with a gentle smile to ask if she will help him, which instantly makes the blushing demon girl nod in pure, unadulterated joy. After their brief lunch break, Luru notes her sudden burst of motivation for training, happily reminding her that tomorrow is a very special day for their family. Right as a grand carriage pulls up to the estate and a passenger steps down, revealing a handsome blonde man who casually removes his glasses to look at the boy, warmly greeting Luru with a big smile as his long journey finally comes to an end. This handsome blonde man smiles warmly as he finally reunites with his beloved son, while his grand carriage rests quietly in the driveway after a long and exhausting journey, greeting Luru with a cheerful grin and noting how much the boy has grown. Though he admits he cannot stay at the estate for very long this time, fortunately he still has plenty of time to give Luru and Rusty some intense training, prompting Luru to nervously warn his dad not to push Rusty too hard this time, leaving the father curious about what exactly went down while he was away. Changing the subject, Patrick casually asks his son about his wife's current whereabouts, and Luru reveals that she is currently back home making lunch with Iris. This news surprises the father, who recalls reading about their newly adopted daughter in a letter, asking Luru if he is truly comfortable with having a new sister around, who quickly replies that he does not mind since Iris is incredibly polite and sweet. Hearing this high praise, Patrick playfully teases his son by asking if she is his girlfriend, which immediately flusters the boy as he tries to explain her complicated background. But the father casually points out that kingdom laws actually allow non-blood siblings to marry, suggesting they could easily tie the knot and join another noble house in the future, making Luru sigh as he insists that he genuinely just views her as a sister. Arriving back at the mansion, they are warmly welcomed by Media, Iris, and the maids, where Patrick immediately embraces his lovely wife and asks how she has been holding up. Before turning his attention to the nervous demon girl to introduce himself as her new father, Patrick warmly welcomes Iris into the family, thanking her for the delicious food before heading inside. Over a nice dinner, he casually mentions how popular magic tools have become in the royal capital, explaining to the kids that high-ranking nobles and important officials use them on a daily basis. Hearing this, Luru silently congratulates himself for having the foresight to ask Guren for help, though he quickly realizes his father is heavily simplifying these complex political stories for children, making it pretty much impossible to extract any deep classified kingdom secrets from him right now. Shifting the conversation, Patrick turns to his wife to ask about the letter she sent him, prompting media to eagerly ask if they can officially adopt the adorable Iris as their daughter. This proud father immediately agrees, noting that she seems like an incredibly sweet and good girl, who has already managed to form a wonderfully close bond with Luru in record time. Iris politely bows and thanks her new father, earning a hearty laugh from the pleased knight, with plans to submit the official adoption paperwork the moment he returns to the capital. Taking a deep breath, Luru suddenly tenses up as he prepares to make a major announcement, looking his father dead in the eye to declare that they need to discuss something important, which naturally catches Patrick's attention as he curiously asks his son what is on his mind. Our boy boldly announces his plan to officially become an active adventurer once he turns 14, but to his surprise, his father calmly smiles and gives him his immediate approval, explaining that while noble inheritance is tricky, they can always adopt someone else to succeed the family. However, Patrick clasps his hands together and warns Luru that the adventure lifestyle is no joke, proposing a special challenge to test if the young boy truly has what it takes. Patrick lays down the law, demanding Luru match his legendary swordsmanship by his 14th birthday. Hearing this absurdly high standard, our reincarnated hero can only offer a stunned internal reaction, because his father warns that failing this test means certain death out in the wild. Looking at those intense eyes, Luru recognizes the same terrifying drive as the heroes of old, prompting him to quickly accept the challenge with a nervous but determined little smile, boldly promising to become a master swordsman worthy of his father's ultimate recognition. This heartfelt declaration absolutely delights Patrick, who beams with pride at his son's incredible resolve. Meanwhile, the sweet mother happily offers to pack extra lunches for their upcoming intense training sessions, while Iris watches nearby, feeling incredibly relieved that the family dynamic is finally so peaceful. Though Luru secretly worries about his current physical limits and immature sword techniques, he knows that mastering both magic and physical combat will require overcoming countless massive hurdles. This very next day, Rusty and Luru are already back at it, clashing wooden swords, pushing each other to their absolute limits as they trade lightning-fast strikes in the yard. Our boy is genuinely impressed by his friend's speed, sparking a friendly conversation about their progress, as Rusty admits that Patrick's brutal training drills have significantly boosted his agility lately. However, since Rusty still struggles with counterattacks, Luru kindly offers to teach him some secret techniques, leaving the red-haired boy ecstatic while Iris watches her beloved commander from a nearby bench. Noting that on top of his daytime training, Luru secretly practices powerful magic at dawn, she realizes that even in this new life, he remains just as incredibly busy as before, but seeing his bright smile makes her realize he is genuinely much happier now. While watching Luru train so diligently, Iris sits alone on a wooden bench feeling slightly useless, realizing that doing absolutely nothing to improve herself just does not feel right anymore. When suddenly Yuri and Mia run up to her with a very unexpected request. Approaching the quiet demon girl, the two young villagers nervously ask her for a major favor, boldly pleading with Iris to step up and officially become their new personal mentor. This sudden proposal completely catches Iris off guard, leaving her staring back in utter disbelief. She mentions her only real skill is dancing, prompting Yuri to quickly clarify they mean combat training, which only confuses Iris more as they apologize for dropping this heavy request so suddenly. Yuri explains that she tried her absolute best to stop Rusty from becoming an adventurer, but since he refuses to back down, they decided to join him on his journey. To survive the dangerous wilds alongside him, they realize they desperately need proper combat training, recalling how they actually approached Luru a few days ago to discuss this very plan. Flashback to Luru looking completely flabbergasted upon hearing that the two girls want to become adventurers, as they explain that letting Rusty head out into the dangerous world alone is too risky. Yuri eagerly asks Luru if his legendary knight father would be willing to help them train, prompting Luru to suggest that instead of standard swordsmanship, they should try a different approach, leaving the two girls completely puzzled by his sudden mention of mid-range support roles. He explains that they can provide crucial backup from a safe distance using powerful magic, allowing a dedicated close combat fighter like Rusty to swing his sword with absolute freedom, pointing out that since they know Rusty's habits best, they are perfect for this role. This girls explain they chose Iris because she is incredibly knowledgeable about magic and surprisingly strong. Though she is willing to help, Iris warns them that her combat techniques are highly unusual, pointing out that their upcoming training sessions will likely be brutal, but they remain completely unfazed, with Yuri boldly declaring that they actually prefer the absolute toughest training she can offer. Confused by their intense motivation, Iris asks why they are willing to push themselves so hard, prompting the girls to explain how Rusty always charges headfirst into danger without a second thought. Listening quietly as the two young villagers open up about their deepest fears and worries, Yuri brings up the terrifying incident with the giant monster that they encountered in the ruins, recalling how they could only cower in fear and hide behind Rusty during that dangerous battle. They realize that if another crisis occurs, they will simply end up being a useless burden, which is why they refuse to just stand by and watch their friend risk his life. Expressing a fierce determination to become strong enough to actively protect him on their journey, This heartfelt confession deeply resonates with Iris, reminding her of her own painful desire for strength, making her soften as she admits she perfectly understands the urge to protect someone precious, gladly accepting their request to become their mentor while delivering a serious warning about what follows. Channeling her terrifying former commander persona, Iris promises she will not hold back even a little, leaving the girls even more excited as they eagerly beg her to begin their lessons. Meanwhile, Luru and Rusty head home after sunset, completely exhausted from their own grueling sword practice, with Luru gently reminding his friend that mastering real combat is a long, steady process. Right as an unexpected voice suddenly calls out to them, catching both boys completely off guard. Iris is absolutely ruthless as a mentor, screaming at the exhausted girls to never let their guard down, while Yuri and Mia struggle to breathe under her terrifyingly intense and relentless gaze. Watching this brutal display from the sidelines, Luru and Rusty can only sweat in pure horror, especially when the sweet demon girl commands them to eliminate their foes before getting killed themselves, making the boys realize Iris has completely transformed into a merciless and terrifying drill sergeant, inheriting the exact same insane training methods of her former commander in the demon army, deciding it is probably best to quietly slip away and focus on their own practice. As Luru knows he cannot afford to waste a single second of his preparation, he realizes that 7 years will pass by in the absolute blink of an eye, bringing us directly to the fateful day of his 14th birthday, where his ultimate test finally begins. Meanwhile, Media and Iris walk through the estate grounds looking incredibly happy and noticeably more mature, showing just how much time has passed since they first welcomed the demon girl home. Right as Patrick smiles warmly in the training yard preparing himself for their final duel, calling out to his son, who has grown into a remarkably sharp and confident young man. This highly anticipated match has been years in the making, marking the culmination of all his hard work, with Luru standing ready with his wooden sword, completely focused on the challenge ahead, prompting our reincarnated hero to confidently smile back, eager to finally prove his worth to his legendary father. Patrick lays out the final rules, declaring that this match will strictly test pure non-magical swordsmanship, acknowledging that while Luru has gotten incredibly strong, an adult's brute strength would normally dominate, revealing a special magic tool on his back that perfectly balances their physical power for a fair fight. Luru accepts the terms, knowing this duel must be won with pure, unassisted skill alone, keeping his overpowered Demon King abilities hidden away as a secret trump card for the future, since relying on anything other than genuine swordsmanship would make this entire test completely meaningless. Patrick smiles in agreement, thrilled to see his son taking the challenge so seriously, praising the boy's incredible growth while predicting that he will easily surpass him one day. Our reincarnated hero confidently confirms that taking his father's legendary title is indeed the ultimate goal, which catches the proud knight off guard as he realizes Luru wants his royal knight instructor job. Still, Patrick is relieved that he will not have to stress over finding a worthy successor, though he jokingly adds that he is not ready to retire and stop spoiling his beautiful wife just yet. Luru chuckles at the sweet sentiment but points out that he has his own precious family to protect, thinking of his adorable newly adopted sister Iris, who is always cheering him on from the sidelines. This bold declaration earns another warm laugh from Patrick, who commends his son's sharp tongue, before tightening his grip on his wooden sword and preparing to unleash his legendary combat prowess. Both fighters take their stances in the dusty yard, ready to kick off the highly anticipated match. He reminds himself that his current human body is still far weaker than his former demonic form, meaning he cannot easily predict his father's movements just by watching his breathing and muscle tension. Realizing he needs to force his opponent's hand, our boy decides to initiate the very first strike, launching a rapid forward thrust to bait Patrick into dodging and attempting a swift counterattack, which is exactly the opening Luru was waiting for as he prepares to shift his momentum, catching the legendary knight completely off guard with a brilliant, lightning-fast follow-up strike. Luru's wooden sword slams hard against his father's defense, catching the legendary knight completely off guard. Patrick backs away in surprise, openly wondering why his son kept this incredible skill hidden for so long. But our boy just smirks, reminding his dad about the importance of keeping a few trump cards hidden, tightening his grip on the wooden hilt as he prepares to unleash his next calculated move. Shifting his weight instantly, Luru slips right past his father's guard with terrifyingly fluid speed, forcing the veteran knight to scramble backward just to block the relentless barrage of strikes. Though Patrick quickly realizes the kid is actually using the very same fundamentals he was taught. Sweating under the pressure, the proud father analyzes his son's bizarrely aggressive approach to combat, which normally focuses on systematically cutting off an opponent's escape routes like a game of chess, methodically cornering the target until they have absolutely nowhere left to run. But Luru's style is different, because instead of waiting for an opening, he actively hunts his opponent down like a wild beast, relentlessly chasing them to deliver a crushing blow before they can even think of escaping, showing a level of raw combat experience that simply cannot be explained by mere logic. Patrick is left completely stunned, wondering if his son is a once-in-a-generation genius, while Luru silently praises his father's sharp instincts for reading his style so quickly. After all, he spent a lifetime refining this aggressive combat style during his days as the Demon King, seamlessly blending his ancient instincts with modern orthodox swordsmanship to create a completely unique art form. But with both fighters rapidly reaching their physical limits, the duel is quickly drawing to a close. Patrick raises his wooden sword high, channeling a powerful aura to end the match with one final strike, prompting Luru to smile confidently as he recognizes the legendary technique his father is about to unleash. Luru analyzes his father's stance, realizing this orthodox style is far more refined than anything he can currently manage. But our boy still has a clever counter ready to deploy even in his current physical state. As Patrick stomps his foot down hard, kicking up a massive cloud of dust in the training yard, both fighters exchange confident shouts before throwing themselves directly into the path of a massive collision. Patrick unleashes his legendary single-blade strike, bringing his wooden sword down with an absolutely overwhelming force. Which apparently works a little too well because the next thing our hero knows, his eyes slowly blink open, finding himself sitting in a noisy, crowded tavern surrounded by rowdy villagers chugging giant mugs of beer. Iris sits right beside him with a smug grin, happily welcoming her brother back to the land of the living, paragraph 1089, prompting a very confused Luru to ask how on earth he ended up in a pub. This next beat of the story lands, only to learn that his father completely knocked him out cold during their intense duel. He instantly recalls the devastating impact of that final strike, realizing he never stood a chance against that raw power, smiling wryly as he accepts his very first official defeat in this new world. Still, the massive celebration puzzles him, since throwing a party for a loser makes absolutely zero sense. But Iris gently explains that this test was never actually about winning or losing, reminding him that even Rusty got totally wrecked by Patrick before confidently setting off on his own adventure, meaning the entire village has gathered tonight to officially celebrate Luru's upcoming departure as an adventurer, though his proud father is currently using the opportunity to get completely wasted and embarrass his son, loudly boasting to the entire tavern about how Luru was born strong while media smiles warmly beside him. His sister revealing that Patrick has already repeated this exact same childhood story 3 times tonight, leaving our hero sweating in pure embarrassment while his sister giggles at how predictable drunk parents can be. Luru realizes that some things never change, no matter what era or world he lives in, as he finally passes out on the tavern table while the rowdy villagers head home, waking up to find his mother warmly praising him for all of his hard work, only for media to tease him about his sister sleeping peacefully on his shoulder, which instantly startles the demon girl awake as she blushes in absolute panic, stammering out a frantic apology while Luru casually assures her that he did not mind, prompting our hero to try and quietly slip away before things get any weirder. But his drunk father immediately grabs him, refusing to let the guest of honor leave. Media and Iris decide to head home first, leaving the two men to talk. As Patrick checks in on his son to see if he has fully recovered, while Luru silently laments his failure to secure a decisive victory in their duel, right before Patrick suddenly drops a bombshell by asking why he held back, only to burst into laughter a second later and claim he was just joking, telling his stunned son that there is absolutely no need to look so terrified, allowing Luru to let out a nervous laugh and play along with the tease. But the legendary knight's playful expression quickly shifts back to a knowing smirk, pointing out that Luru was clearly determined to keep his true abilities hidden. Realizing he cannot fool his father, Luru apologizes and explains it was a trump card, which Patrick completely understands since he was the one who taught him that lesson, though he admits he still hoped his son would go all out for their final match. Luru smiles as he realizes his father only knows half the truth about his hidden strength, because while Patrick sensed his holding back, he has no idea about his ancient demon powers, meaning our boy technically fought at his absolute physical limit without relying on any actual magic, allowing him to keep misleading his father while the legendary knight happily chugs down his beer. Though seeing his usually stoic dad show so much genuine emotion makes Luru realize something important, knowing that even if Patrick eventually discovers the truth, he would never fear or betray him, prompting our hero to boldly propose a rematch where they both fight with absolutely everything they have. Patrick is instantly intrigued, asking if his son is truly ready to go completely all out, which Luru readily confirms, but only on the condition that his father does the exact same thing, casually mentioning that he actually had plenty of power left to spare during their first match, suggesting they ditch the strength-suppressing magic tool and unleash their full magical capabilities in their next duel. This bold request catches Patrick off guard, making him wonder if his son is actually mocking him, pointing out that a top-tier royal knight should not need to unleash his full power against a kid. But Luru counters by suggesting a secret early morning match before his official departure the next day. After a tense moment of silence, the veteran knight finally relents and accepts the daring challenge, warning his son that he will not take responsibility if an injury delays his upcoming journey, with our reincarnated hero smirking as he confidently tells his father that those words are his exact line, sending Patrick into a fit of hearty laughter as he realizes he simply cannot refuse this match, proudly promising to show the kid the true power of the kingdom's greatest swordsman. As the night sky slowly fades to dawn, setting the stage for their ultimate secret clash, Luru casually flips a shiny gold coin into the air to set the stage, explaining to his curious father that this will serve as the starting signal, catching the coin to clarify that the duel begins the moment it hits the dirt, which Patrick eagerly accepts, telling his son to throw it whenever he feels ready. Our hero smirks at his father's immense confidence before preparing to unleash his true strength. Deciding to take him up on the offer without holding anything back this time, suddenly, a massive surge of dark red magical energy erupts violently from Leroux's body, leaving the legendary knight completely stunned by the sheer magnitude of his son's power. Though our boy casually reveals that he still has not reached his absolute limit yet, he explains that he simply cannot fully control some of his most destructive abilities. Prompting Patrick to raise his sword, thrilled to see his son taking this seriously. Leroux nods in agreement, holding the gold coin up one last time before the start, tossing it high into the early morning sky to officially kick off their rematch. As the coin spins rapidly through the air, the tension in the yard reaches its peak, with both fighters channeling their massive elemental auras as they prepare to clash, knowing that this is no longer a simple test but a genuine battle of strength. This coin finally hits the ground, and both swordsmen instantly launch themselves forward, clashing their wooden blades with a devastating impact that shakes the entire training yard, leaving Patrick thoroughly impressed by how incredibly narrow the gap between them has become, while Leroux smirks back, realizing he still has a long way to go to surpass him. Patrick originally planned to end the clash with a single decisive blow, but Leroux's overwhelming red aura forces him to stay completely on the defensive, as our boy smirks and readies his wooden blade for a lightning-fast thrust, prompting the veteran knight to quickly realize that dodging is no longer a viable option, because he knows his son's speed has already surpassed his ability to easily counter, leaving him with no choice but to try and knock the incoming strike aside. Leroux immediately reads his father's defensive plan, knowing any hesitation will cost him the match, so he decides to take a massive gamble by pushing his physical limits even further, clashing their wooden swords in a blinding flash of speed and raw magical power. This veteran knight confidently claims victory after seemingly blocking the attack with his superior stance, only to freeze in absolute shock as his son suddenly materializes right behind him, whispering a cheeky remark that instantly shatters his father's brief moment of triumph, before delivering a swift, decisive strike that sends the legendary knight crashing to the dirt. Standing victorious, our reincarnated hero proudly points his wooden sword at his defeated father, who can only sigh in defeat as he slowly pushes himself back up, ultimately ending up carrying his completely exhausted son on his back like a sack of potatoes. Leroux silently reflects on how he has been carefully pacing his magical growth since childhood, but his father's insane strength forced him to overcharge his mana channels far beyond his current limit, leaving him to suffer the agonizing consequences of full-body muscle pain as they walk home, wondering if he really has to endure this brutal physical backlash after every single serious fight. Leroux reflects on the legendary human heroes who constantly pushed past their magical limits to defeat demons, hoping that he can eventually reach that same level of absolute power in the future. But for now, he has to carry his unconscious father back to the village entrance, where Iris is already waiting with a curious smile to ask how the secret match went, prompting our exhausted hero to proudly declare his victory despite it being an incredibly close fight. He confidently boasts that a rematch would yield the exact same result, though he secretly admits that his father's raw power and combat instincts were far greater than he ever anticipated, which genuinely surprises Iris since Leroux rarely hands out compliments to anyone he has defeated. Our boy even compares the legendary knight to Bacchus, the ancient demon king from his past life, leaving the demon girl stunned by the comparison just as Patrick finally begins to stir, slowly waking up on his son's back and wondering where on earth they currently are. This veteran knight smiles softly as the reality of his very first defeat finally sinks in, philosophically musing about how vast the world is while Leroux struggles to keep him balanced. Patrick admits he never expected his streak to be broken by his own flesh and blood, warning the kid not to overdo it since he clearly overexerted his mana during the clash. Iris reveals that she actually noticed them sneaking out of the house early this morning, having patiently waited at the village gate all this time just to welcome them back safely. She fondly recalls catching a glimpse of Leroux's terrifying strength when he rescued her from the ruins. Patrick smiles warmly, realizing he no longer has to worry about their upcoming journey, reminding them that strength cannot solve everything, so they must always rely on each other. Patrick continues his speech, reminding his son that even legendary fighters like himself and media have limits, which Leroux quietly acknowledges, fully understanding the deeper meaning behind his father's wise advice. Because if raw power alone could solve every crisis, teaming up with the legendary hero would have been enough. Yet the harsh reality of their world is far more complex and filled with tragic sacrifices. Our hero promises to keep this crucial lesson in mind as Iris stands supportively by his side, earning a warm, proud smile from the veteran knight who finally feels at ease about their future. With the heavy talk out of the way, Patrick suggests they head back to start packing up, leading the young duo home as the morning sun paints the sky in beautiful golden hues. Soon, a grand carriage arrives at the village gates while a crowd of locals gathers to watch, prompting Leroux's parents to step forward and bid their beloved children a proper farewell. Dressed in their traveling gear, Leroux and Iris stand ready to embark on their grand adventure, surrounded by supportive villagers who have all come out to wish them safety on the road. One of the locals jokingly points out that their legendary reputation will surely spread like wildfire, while media proudly declares that she never doubted the strength of Patrick's talented disciples. Though she cannot help but tear up as she realizes how incredibly fast they have grown, she pulls Luru into a tight emotional hug, begging him to stay safe and avoid recklessness, before embracing Iris and warmly telling her to look after her son during their long journey. This veteran knight mentions he will stay in the village a bit longer before returning to the capital. Smiling as he tells them, he eagerly looks forward to their next reunion in the kingdom. As the driver announces it is time to leave, our duo shares one final nod and departs. This carriage finally rolls out of the village gates as our duo begins their long-awaited journey, leaving their proud parents and the cheering locals waving goodbye from the dusty road behind them. Luru gazes out the window, realizing this is actually his very first time leaving for an adventure. Iris teasingly points out that he was far too busy to take casual trips in his past life, reminding him of how the ancient demon king Bacchus was always the one traveling around instead. Shifting the topic, the demon girl asks if they can quickly review their travel route once more, prompting our hero to explain that their ultimate destination is the bustling royal capital, which will take about a week of traveling through several small villages and midway towns. Iris happily notes that their first order of business upon arrival is registering at the Adventurers Guild, though Luru suggests meeting up with Gran and their other old allies before doing anything else. She agrees, noting that Rusty and the rest of the crew should be waiting at the base, wondering aloud if Mih and Yuri have managed to master their magical abilities over these past months. Our boy adds that he also wants to hunt down some rare weapons and ancient antiques, wearing a mysterious smirk as he mentions having some highly specialized research to conduct. He pulls a strange mechanical device from his bag, asking Iris if she can identify it, which she immediately recognizes as a portable magic gun designed for people who lack magical energy, confirming his success in repurposing ancient machine parts he salvaged from the ruins, before he casually presents a second, much sleeker firearm prototype to show off his crafting skills. Iris is thoroughly impressed, asking if this advanced model is already a fully completed prototype. While Luru explains that its unique structure and rare materials make it vastly superior to normal weapons, Luru clarifies that he did not actually build this sleek prototype himself, explaining it came from a merchant, leaving Iris completely shocked that someone else could manufacture such advanced technology in this era. As our hero silently reflects on how ancient humans and demons once possessed incredibly advanced civilizations, using their highly developed magical technology to create devastating weapons that only fueled endless conflict, which ultimately caused modern society to stagnate by focusing solely on crafting basic everyday items. Now, he worries about the dangerous consequences if a single nation ever monopolized these mysterious weapons, prompting the demon girl to realize exactly why he is so determined to research them. Our boy hands over the sleek firearm, asking her to try activating it as a test. So she closes her eyes and channels her magical energy directly into the strange device, only to realize that it refuses to fire despite clearly draining her massive mana reserves. This young swordsman sighs, admitting that even his thorough disassembly of the weapon yielded absolutely no answers, jokingly complaining that they are already facing a massive roadblock right at the start of their journey. Iris giggles at his reaction, pointing out that he actually seems to be enjoying the challenge, teasingly reminding him of how much he loved solving mysteries back in his previous life, like the time he gleefully hunted down whoever stole the Demon King's secret alcohol stash, which brings a nostalgic smile to our hero's face as he remembers his old friend Bacchus. Curiously, he asks what the legendary Demon King ended up doing after his tragic passing. But the demon girl sadly looks away, admitting that she does not actually know either. Explaining that she chose to leave her father's side to travel the world alone back then, she offers a soft, apologetic smile as she prepares to reveal another crucial detail. Iris softly admits she believes the legendary Demon King actually survived his final battle, describing him as the type of man who simply refuses to die for any reason. Which brings a warm, genuine smile to our hero's face as he agrees with her, silently hoping that his old friend's final moments on Earth were peaceful. This carriage driver suddenly calls out to let them know they are approaching their next stop, prompting the young duo to quickly wake up and prepare for their arrival. Peering out the window, Iris excitedly points toward the massive stone walls in the distance, revealing the towering gates of the legendary fortress city known as Final, which stands as the largest settlement our reincarnated hero has seen in this new life. As they pull up to the entrance, a guard politely asks for their travel passes, quickly verifying their documents before handing them back with a welcoming smile. This massive carriage finally rolls through the gates, officially entering the bustling fortress city, where Luru looks back out the window to catch the eye of the gatekeeper, who gives the young travelers a friendly thumbs up to wish them luck. Earning an equally cheerful gesture from our hero and his demon companion. Settling back into his seat, Luru curiously asks Iris if she is enjoying the journey, and she beams with pure happiness, confirming that she is having an absolute blast. Soon, their carriage pulls up to a surprisingly high-end inn nestled in the city streets. Our boy is thoroughly impressed by the quality, especially after hearing rumors about their amazing food. Though he notes that they still have plenty of daylight left before dinner begins, Luru suggests they explore the city before dinner, prompting a thrilled Iris to immediately agree. Their driver warns them about the dangers of wandering alone, but Luru confidently mentions their adventure plans, boasting that even his legendary father recognized their skills, which quickly reassures the veteran driver, who tells them to be ready for their departure first thing tomorrow morning before bidding them farewell. With their plans set, the young duo eagerly heads out to explore the bustling streets together, stepping into a vibrant marketplace filled with lively vendors and colorful stalls under the evening sun. Iris marvels at the cute little trinkets and mouth-watering food displays lining the busy streets, dragging our hero along as she happily takes in the incredible sights of the city, which feels surprisingly peaceful and normal despite its reputation as a massive military stronghold. Though Luru explains that the fortress city has mostly transitioned into a regular trade hub nowadays, he reveals that a powerful ancient dragon residing in the nearby mountains keeps all other monsters away, prompting the demon girl to fondly recall legends of these massive, highly intelligent creatures. And when Luru asks if she has ever encountered one, she casually admits she has, wondering aloud if any of these legendary beasts still roam the world in this current era. Suddenly, a ragged young boy runs past them, accidentally bumping straight into the demon girl, catching her completely off guard as she stumbles slightly from the sudden impact, only to realize the stealthy kid is actually reaching directly for her coin pouch. Utilizing her insane reflexes, Iris instantly grabs his wrist and stops the theft in its tracks, letting the terrified pickpocket flee into the crowd while our duo silently watches him run away, somberly realizing that the harsh divide between the rich and poor exists in every single era. Luru remembers how wars left countless orphans and impoverished people starving in the ruins, which suddenly reminds our reincarnated hero of a highly influential organization from his past life. He mentions how the ancient church used to be incredibly active in rescuing those helpless children. Though Iris looks slightly uneasy as she prepares to point out the darker side of things, she explains that those saved orphans were usually groomed into devout followers or frontline soldiers, making their true intentions highly questionable even if it kept kids from dying on the streets. Walking down the cobblestone path, the duo notes how modern religious groups feel entirely different, prompting the demon girl to wonder why that ancient organization completely vanished from the world. Historically, the old church was a massive power that wielded immense influence over the land, constantly preaching salvation through legendary heroes while actively calling for the total eradication of demons, meaning they likely faded away alongside the ancient demons or collapsed after splitting from their allies. Our boy resolves to investigate this mystery later, only to suddenly spot something unexpected nearby. Standing tall amidst the city streets is a beautiful, classic cathedral that immediately catches his eye, and since they are both incredibly curious, they decide to take a quick look inside. Pushing the heavy wooden doors open, a bright light spills out from the quiet sanctuary. But the moment they step inside, Iris gasps in absolute shock at what she sees, while Luru freezes in complete disbelief as his eyes lock onto the altar ahead, where a majestic stone statue of none other than the legendary demon king Bacchus stands proudly. Gently grabbing his arm, Iris checks to see if her companion has managed to calm down, leaving our embarrassed hero to realize he was actually the one who completely lost his cool. Iris quickly recovers from her shock, smiling as she notes that nothing her father does should surprise her. Though our hero is still incredibly impressed by how well she understands the eccentric demon king's personality, leaving them both to stare up at the stone monument and wonder why he was ever immortalized, since the legendary demon king was definitely more of a chaotic troublemaker than a holy savior. Our boy silently agrees with her blunt assessment, holding back a laugh at how offended Bacchus would be, before asking if she has any clues about what her father did after the ancient war ended. But their quiet conversation is suddenly cut short by the echoing sound of footsteps approaching from behind, prompting Luru to turn around and spot a mysterious hooded traveler dressed in pure white robes, who silently glides across the stone floor while carrying a massive sword strapped to her waist. Suddenly, the stranger casually drops the giant weapon onto the carpet with a heavy, echoing thud, pulling back her hood to reveal a beautiful blonde girl with sharp, piercing blue eyes. This young swordsman is completely taken aback, wondering if she is actually a priest of this strange sect, while silently judging the fact that her massive sword looks completely impractical for a normal clergyman, until the blonde girl politely breaks the silence by asking if they need any assistance. Feeling a bit awkward, our hero quickly tries to play off their suspicious behavior with a nervous smile, explaining that it is actually his very first time visiting a church since his hometown lacked one. This friendly girl introduces herself as a missionary priest of the End faith who travels to rural villages, prompting Luru to share that they are currently traveling toward the bustling royal capital. She beams with a warm smile, suggesting that their chance encounter in this quiet sanctuary must be fate, which gives our clever hero the perfect opportunity to ask about the mysterious stone statue behind them. This blonde priestess explains that the statue represents Apostle Bacchus, a legendary savior of the world, which leaves our young duo completely speechless to hear the chaotic demon king called a saint, forcing them to sweat profusely as they struggle to process this absurdly rewritten history. Curiously, Luru asks for more details about how exactly this supposed saint saved the world. prompting the friendly missionary to invite them to sit down for a legendary tale. She explains that this sacred myth originates from the teachings of the End faith, dating back over 3,000 years to a time when humans fought ancient demons. Back then, the legendary hero traveled with two trusted companions, a mage and a swordmaster, marching directly into battle to defeat the ultimate leader of the demon race. But our reincarnated protagonist listens with a growing sense of confusion and disbelief, especially when she describes a devastating weapon that threatened to destroy everything in its path, until Bacchus suddenly intervened to fight alongside the hero and save humanity from doom. This bizarre alliance is precisely why the church now worships him as a holy saint, leaving our hero highly skeptical about how his old friend's actions were so wildly misinterpreted. So he politely speaks up to ask about another crucial detail from that era, wondering why she did not mention the legendary saintess who also traveled with the hero. Shockingly, the priestess reveals that their records contain absolutely no mention of such a person, gently asking where he could have possibly heard about a forgotten companion, which forces our sweating hero to quickly play it off as a simple mix-up. Allowing the priestess to warmly conclude her tale and invite them to join her in prayer, this blonde priestess steps up to the grand altar, preparing to offer her daily prayers, closing her eyes as she sincerely asks for Bacchus' holy blessing to guide their troubled world, while quietly wishing the two young travelers safety and good fortune on their upcoming journey. Bidding them farewell, she politely excuses herself to let the duo explore the cathedral in peace, before firmly gripping the hilt of her massive sword and lifting it with ease, leaving Luru and Iris to quietly watch her walk away into the shadows of the sanctuary. Once she is gone, Iris points out how bizarrely distorted the historical records have become, prompting our sweating hero to realize that thousands of years can warp even the simplest truths, though the demon girl quickly suggests they head back to the inn to grab some dinner. Staring up at the monument one last time, Iris admits she is absolutely starving, which makes Luru laugh, knowing his old friend would probably just demand some good booze. Meanwhile, deep in the dark forest, the mysterious priestess sits quietly beside a crackling campfire, reflecting on the interesting duo she met and how they are heading toward the capital, while a mysterious voice from her weapon teases her about leaving her comfortable life behind. She firmly defends her choice, stating she has something incredibly important she needs to find, though she quickly gets annoyed when the talkative sword continues to playfully tease her, poking the burning logs with a stick as the weapon complains about its lack of entertainment. Looking into the flames, a soft, knowing smile spreads across the young priestess's face, deciding that she might actually stick around this area for just a little bit longer. This next morning, our heroic duo boards their carriage as it rolls out toward the capital. Sitting inside the carriage, Luru realizes the bizarre church myth only deepens the mystery surrounding his father, while Iris cheerfully points out that just hearing these wild legends feels like a massive win. Our reincarnated hero remains deeply skeptical, silently brooding over the bizarre historical changes, especially the complete erasure of the legendary saintess and the sudden mention of a mysterious weapon. He also cannot help but wonder about that strange, heavily armed priestess they just met, but his deep thoughts are suddenly interrupted when the carriage driver calls out in surprise, prompting Iris to eagerly point out the window as they finally reach their destination. Towering majestically over the horizon is the massive, beautiful capital city of Desierto, bringing a bright, excited smile to our young hero's face as he looks outside, marveling at the grand scale of the kingdom's heart after their long, tiring journey. Iris can barely contain her excitement, wondering if all their allies are already waiting for them inside. Suddenly, their veteran driver pulls the horses to a stop with a highly confused look, noticing that the main entrance to the capital is completely packed with carriages and travelers. So he decides to call out to a passing local to ask what is happening. A stern-looking nun carrying a sword turns around, calmly asking what they need, which immediately catches Luru's attention as he wonders if every adventurer here is this strong. This warrior nun explains that the massive crowd is gathering for a special event tomorrow, revealing that a legendary fire dragon was recently defeated and will be publicly dissected. This shocking news leaves their driver completely stunned, wondering if capital residents casually hunt dragons, but the nun proudly clarifies that only two of the kingdom's absolute strongest adventurers managed it. This warrior nun explains that the famous clan making headlines is actually the Seekers of Time, prompting their driver to politely thank her for the explanation while apologizing for the delay, before casually slipping her a few gold coins as a little thank you gift for her help, which pleasantly surprises the warrior nun since she rarely sees merchants being this generous with their money. A knowing smile spreads across her face as she decides this merchant is worth remembering, introducing herself as Manaka from the Heimrose clan and offering her services if they ever need help. Their driver happily accepts the offer before bidding the friendly warrior nun a warm farewell. Manaka even waves goodbye to the two kids peeking out from the back of the carriage, leaving our heroic duo absolutely thrilled to hear that their old companions are doing so well. Though Iris jokingly complains that they should have delayed the dragon dissection to spare them this traffic, slowly but surely, their carriage navigates through the crowded streets as they finally enter the capital. By the time night falls, the group finally arrives at a cozy local inn to rest. This friendly driver bids them a warm good night, explaining that he will be heading out early tomorrow morning. Settling into their room, Luru laments that it is already far too late to do any sightseeing, prompting Iris to reflect on how demons could never safely set foot in human cities back then. Ancient cities used to be protected by massive holy barriers that meant instant doom for any invader. But now they can just stroll right in, showing how much both civilizations have actually declined. She sighs, genuinely wondering where all that glorious power and ancient history could have possibly vanished to. Our boy silently agrees, realizing that finding the truth about Bacchus might actually give them some answers, deciding that their very first stop tomorrow should be the Grand Library to search for ancient records. Luru plans to hit the library first thing tomorrow, but Iris quickly reminds him about Grand's clan, while also pointing out that they still need to actually find a place to sleep tonight, forcing our embarrassed hero to admit he completely forgot about basic survival because of his research obsession. She warns him that their old companions will be incredibly hurt if he ignores them, but Luru quietly grumbles that those guys seem to be having plenty of fun without them. Amused by his sudden pout, the demon princess playfully asks if he is just feeling left out, prompting our boy to cross his arms and complain about them slaying dragons while leaving him behind, which makes Iris burst into a quiet fit of giggles at his surprisingly childish attitude. Calling him absolutely adorable, she completely catches the legendary hero off guard as he stammers in confusion, explaining that she finally understands why her chaotic father loved teasing him so much back then. Leaving Luru to blush and beg her to stop comparing him to that eccentric demon king. Giving in to her logic, he agrees to prioritize meeting their old friends first thing tomorrow morning. Bright and early the next day, the bustling streets of the capital come alive with activity, filled with lively merchants and busy citizens going about their usual morning routines. But our confident protagonist is already starting to regret his bold decision. Staring blankly at a map while nervously asking Iris if they are even heading the right way, this demon girl sweat drops, admitting that the map seems correct but the directions are incredibly vague, especially since their only clue is a giant red circle with a messy handwritten note, forcing them to wander aimlessly through the crowded streets while trying to make sense of it. Suddenly, Luru stops dead in his tracks as he looks up and spots something highly familiar. Luru's eyes widen as he spots a potential match on their poorly drawn map, stopping right in front of a massive, vine-covered building that towers over the street, prompting Iris to stare in disbelief as they compare the structure to their vague directions, wondering if this ancient, run-down tower could actually be the legendary clan's headquarters. Looking around for any kind of confirmation, our boy suddenly spots a wooden plaque, which clearly identifies the place as the official home of the Seekers of Time, although the exterior looks like it might collapse into a pile of rubble at any second. This demon princess steps closer to inspect the walls with her keen magical senses, detecting a hidden barrier that carries the distinct, slightly inefficient signature of their old mage friend, finding it passable enough while Luru points out that it is still sturdier than most normal buildings. Deciding there is only one way to find out what lies inside, they step up to the entrance, reaching out to grab the heavy brass handle and slowly pushing the door open, revealing a surprisingly clean and spacious interior that looks completely different from the outside. Our duo is pleasantly surprised to find that the shabby exterior was just a clever disguise, realizing the entire first floor has been fully set up to look like a cozy local tavern. As they look around the empty room, a friendly voice suddenly calls out from the stairs, as a cute braided girl wearing glasses cheerfully greets them while walking down. Luru nervously stammers, wondering if this polite girl is actually a member of the elite clan, before quickly explaining that Gran invited them, which immediately makes her face light up with recognition. Introducing herself as Chiffon, the trusted caretaker who keeps watch over the base and runs the tavern. Luru politely greets Chiffon, though he silently wonders if this scatterbrained girl can actually run the place. But their formal introduction is suddenly cut short by a massive, rumbling growl from his stomach, leaving our embarrassed hero to blush and admit they have not eaten a single thing all day, which makes Chiffon giggle warmly before offering to whip up a quick meal while they find a seat. Laying out a colorful spread of fresh vegetables, she prepares to show off her culinary skills, chopping the ingredients with lightning-fast precision as she mentions how much Gran talked about them, before tossing everything into a blazing hot pan with the seasoned grace of a master chef, sliding 2 steaming plates of delicious fried rice right in front of the hungry travelers. Our boy takes a bite, thoroughly impressed by how incredibly fast and efficient she is in the kitchen, but his eyes suddenly widen in absolute shock the second the flavors hit his tongue. Marveling at the incredible taste while Chiffon proudly explains she only used basic, everyday ingredients. Happily stuffing his face, Luru realizes their old friend Gran managed to recruit an absolute genius, though the cheerful caretaker quickly apologizes and explains that the rest of the clan is currently out, revealing that Gran is busy preparing for the dragon dissection while Rusty is away on a mission, since they actually arrived a bit too early to catch their old companions at the base. A bright, mischievous smile spreads across Chiffon's face as she looks at the 2 travelers, realizing that their early arrival might actually turn out to be a blessing in disguise, especially since the tavern is closed for the day and they can all go watch the show together. Iris and Luru happily agree, deciding it would be a fun way to reunite with their busy friends, prompting Chiffon to wave them forward excitedly so they do not miss a single second of the action. Iris whispers that Chiffon is surprisingly skilled, easily outclassing their old buddy Rusty, leaving our skeptical hero to sweat drop since the cute caretaker looks completely harmless. As they head out into the city, the streets are absolutely packed with eager citizens, prompting Iris to marvel at the crowd while Chiffon explains how rare dragon dissections are, revealing that the tickets sold out instantly and made the clan a massive fortune. Luru panics slightly upon hearing this, realizing they do not actually have any tickets. But the cheerful caretaker quickly pulls out 3 passes with a mischievous grin, handing over premium VIP tickets worth a gold coin each completely free of charge. Staring at the ticket, our boy asks if Gran is actually performing the dissection, while Iris wonders if their mage friend Yumi's will be joining him on stage. Chiffon clarifies that Yumi's is busy setting up barriers to contain the messy dragon blood, as they finally approach the Grand Plaza where a massive covered stage awaits them. Unfortunately, the crowd is so dense that Luru cannot see a single thing, only to suddenly feel a pair of strong hands grab him tightly from behind, with Chiffon effortlessly hoisting him high into the air to give him a better view. Embarrassed by his sudden flight, our hero quickly begs her to put him back down, silently reeling over how a girl that small possesses such terrifying physical strength. Looking around, the entire arena is buzzing with excitement as thousands of spectators wait, making the trio incredibly glad they managed to secure their spots in time. Before Chiffon eagerly points toward the stage, announcing that the main event is finally starting, Gran steps onto the massive stage, waving to the hyped-up crowd as the main event begins, prompting the excited spectators to cheer wildly in anticipation of the legendary beast's grand reveal, before he dramatically gestures to the massive covered structure sitting right in the center of the arena. This heavy tarp is pulled back, revealing a colossal 15-meter-long fire dragon that leaves everyone completely breathless, while Gran flashes a confident smirk, drawing his blade to officially kick off the highly anticipated show. Roars of excitement echo through the packed stands as thousands of spectators watch the spectacle unfold, holding their breath as the charismatic warrior promises to deliver a performance they will never forget. He raises his sword high, announcing that the legendary fire dragon dismantling show is finally underway, which makes Luru wonder how on earth they managed to transport such a massive creature into the city. Only for Chiffon to explain that they utilized a rare, large-scale spatial storage device for the job, leaving our hero to ask Iris if she still possesses a magical storage of that massive scale. She shakes her head, proudly showing off a small bag-shaped spatial storage her brother-in-law crafted for her, though Luru sweat drops while admitting they currently lack the rare materials and high-level skills to make anything larger. Meanwhile, Gran hypes up the crowd by promising to cook a massive batch of delicious dragon stew afterward, taking a firm stance as he prepares to make his very first incision on the beast, slicing through the dragon's neck with a single lightning-fast strike that cleanly severs the massive head. Watching from the stands, our duo is thoroughly impressed by the incredibly clean cut of his weapon, which Chiffon explains is a rare katana forged by master swordsmiths from the mysterious eastern lands, telling them to look closely at the severed neck to truly appreciate the blade's terrifying sharpness, revealing a flawless incision that bypassed the dragon's near-impenetrable scales without leaving a single jagged mark. Gran explains that using a sharp sword keeps the valuable dragon materials in pristine condition, while a nearby spectator gasps in shock as a stray drop of blood hits the barrier, splashing harmlessly into a strange, bucket-like device sitting right at the edge of the stage. Iris curiously asks about the weird container, prompting Luru to identify it as a rare magical tool, which was originally designed for water shortages but works perfectly for collecting precious liquids, especially since dragon blood is a top-tier ingredient for high-level medicine, cooking, and blacksmithing. This swordsman carefully channels the liquid to ensure not a single drop of the expensive resource goes to waste, slicing the massive beast into perfect, uniform portions with the ease of a master chef, flashing a confident grin as he prepares to wrap up his highly anticipated public performance. Striking a victorious pose, the charismatic warrior proudly announces his work is finally complete, leaving our duo thoroughly impressed by his ability to dismantle such a massive creature alone. Suddenly, Luru looks around in confusion, realizing their cute caretaker companion has completely vanished, only to spot Chiffon cheerfully waving from the stage while announcing the start of the cooking show. She winks playfully at the audience, promising to deliver a legendary stew that will blow them away, which instantly drives the crowd wild as desperate marriage proposals echo through the massive arena, prompting our sweat-dropping hero to wonder when she managed to gain such a massive fan club. With her assistants ready, the skilled chef begins chopping the ingredients with blinding speed, tossing the fresh dragon meat and vegetables directly into a massive, bubbling cauldron, stirring the giant pot with a massive wooden paddle as the rich aroma fills the air, leaving Luru and Iris to stare in awe, completely mesmerized by the mouth-watering feast. Just as they wonder about the food, a massive hand suddenly grabs them from behind, revealing their old buddy Gran, who pulls them both into a suffocatingly tight bear hug. Gasping for air, our hero quickly begs the overly enthusiastic warrior to let them go, before they happily catch up and compliment how incredibly well they are all doing. Luru asks about their mage friend Yumi's, only to learn he is still managing the barrier, since he lacks the rare ability to maintain his high-level magic from a distance, prompting Iris to note how their ancient magic operates on a completely different level, explaining that modern common sense actually hinders people from mastering those ancient techniques. Deciding to drop the heavy magic talk, Gran happily points toward the massive, steaming cauldron, suggesting they quickly jump into the massive line before the legendary stew completely runs out. Taking a massive bite, our hungry hero lets the rich flavors wash over him, instantly shouting in absolute delight at how incredibly delicious the dragon meat actually tastes. Iris happily agrees, mentioning it has been a very long time since she tasted dragon. Gran curiously asks if demons ate them often, but she explains they rarely fought dragons, noting that ancient humans were actually the ones who hunted them to craft powerful weapons. This historical fact completely blows Gran's mind, though Luru remains focused on the food. Looking over at the stage, they notice the line for chiffon stew is ridiculously long. As Gran explains, her incredible cooking skills have made her incredibly famous in the capital. Although business is booming, he admits she constantly complains about a severe labor shortage, which makes Luru suggest hiring help right before a familiar voice suddenly calls Gran's name. Chiffon suddenly storms over with a ladle, demanding they help out since 500 hungry customers are waiting, leaving our sweat-dropping trio to realize just how intense the tavern business can actually get. Though Gran immediately volunteers to handle the heavy lifting, prompting Chiffon to cheer for her reliable boss, while Luru and Iris quietly chuckle at how incredibly well the two of them get along. Later that evening, everyone gathers inside the cozy tavern to raise their glasses for a massive celebration, with Gran proudly proposing a toast to the absolute success of their legendary dragon dissection show, before welcoming Luru and Iris, wishing them the absolute best on their brand new journey together, clinking their overflowing mugs in a loud, joyous cheer that echoes throughout the entire room. Looking around the bustling tavern, our hero is pleasantly surprised by the sheer size of the clan, counting roughly 20 active members enjoying their drinks in this lively, medium-sized guild headquarters, where several friendly beastkin chatting nearby bring back a wave of nostalgia from his old village days, which makes Iris marvel at how peacefully so many different races can gather under one roof. Luru warmly agrees, quietly reflecting on how this beautiful sight is a miracle he once only dreamed of, before a familiar voice suddenly cuts through his thoughts to ask if they are enjoying themselves, turning out to be Yumi's, who is already looking quite tipsy as she demands to know if Luru is having fun. Our boy happily thanks the blonde mage for her incredible hard work in maintaining the barrier today, prompting her to smile warmly, though she admits the place feels a bit lonely without Rusty around, leading Luru to ask if their rogue companion is currently out on a mission, which Gran confirms is true, explaining that the task is not too difficult and they should be returning sometime tomorrow or the day after, though the mischievous grins on his companions' faces suggest there might be a hilarious catch to this mission. Gran chuckles, noting that their old friends are already making a name for themselves as adventurers, before explaining that the client who hired them belongs to their very own clan, which immediately catches the attention of everyone sitting around the lively tavern table. This charismatic warrior leans in, revealing that the group who issued the request to Rusty is none other than the rookies from their own guild, the Seekers of the Age. This unexpected connection leaves Luru quite surprised, prompting Gran to explain the hilarious backstory behind it, mentioning that 3 young rookies recently joined their ranks but are still complete beginners, who eagerly rushed out to complete their very first official quest without telling anyone. Our hero notes that a simple low-level herb gathering task should be perfectly safe for them, but Gran sighs, revealing the target herbs actually grow on the treacherous Nyor's mountain. Realizing a round trip takes at least 2 days, Luru sweat drops at how dangerous that is, while Gran explains the kids snuck out early to avoid being stopped by the adults. Yumi's chimes in, explaining she secretly sent Rusty's team to shadow and protect the rookies, keeping their distance so they do not accidentally bruise the young adventurer's fragile pride. Gran heartily agrees, noting that kids need to learn on their own without adults hovering, especially since the rookies actually look up to Rusty's squad more than anyone else, even going so far as to affectionately call the grumpy rogue their beloved big brother. This adorable image of their tough companion makes Luru and Iris smile warmly, though they both agree it will be incredibly hard not to tease him about it. This next morning, our duo finally makes their way into the bustling Adventurers Guild headquarters. Stepping inside, Luru is pleasantly surprised by how clean and well-maintained the capital's guild looks, prompting Iris to point toward the reception desk so they can finally get things started, where our hero politely announces his intention to register as an official adventurer to the staff. This cute bunny-eared receptionist nervously handing over a blank registration form with a bright blush, which immediately draws a deadly, jealous glare from Iris as she stares down the girl's outfit, leaving a sweat-dropping Luru to ignore the sudden tension and ask how to fill out the form, pointing specifically at the section asking for his combat style and unique personal skills, while she explains that solo rookies are usually placed into parties to keep survival rates high. But our boy politely declines the offer while sliding over a special piece of paper, revealing a highly prestigious letter of introduction and an official clan membership agreement instead, which makes the receptionist gasp upon realizing they are joining the legendary Seekers of the Era clan. happily taking the paperwork while curiously asking if the two of them are actually siblings, before she opens a wooden chest to begin saving their personal details into the system, activating a massive glowing pillar wrapped in vines that utilizes ancient clan technology for processing, until she cheerfully confirms that both their registration and clan membership are officially complete. Sliding over two brand new adventure licenses to serve as official proof of their status, prompting Luru to examine his beginner low rank and ask what the class system actually represents, which she explains is a pyramid of strength ranging from low, intermediate, advanced to special, reassuring them that everyone starts at the bottom but can easily rank up with experience, handing over an informational guide as our grateful hero politely thanks her for the smooth process. With the registration process finally complete, the cute bunny-eared receptionist smiles warmly at the duo, cheerfully announcing that both Luru and Iris are now officially registered as active adventurers, prompting the nearby crowd to burst into a warm round of applause to congratulate them. Our hero politely thanks everyone and prepares to leave, but the receptionist quickly calls them back, sliding a special piece of paper across the counter with an eager, hopeful expression. Explaining that a major rookie tournament is scheduled to take place in the capital next month, Luru politely declines the offer, admitting they are not really interested in participating in public events, which instantly sends the poor girl into a state of dramatic, gloomy disappointment, forcing our sweat-dropping hero to quickly backtrack and promise to consider it depending on clan policy, instantly cheering her up as she happily introduces herself to them as Aaron. Waving goodbye to the energetic receptionist, Luru turns to his companion to ask for her thoughts, only for Iris to narrow her eyes and ask what he thinks of girls like that, leaving our clueless protagonist to assume she's simply talking about Aaron's bright and energetic personality. However, Iris clarifies that she was actually referring to the girl's notably generous chest size, sending Luru into a panic as he awkwardly stammers that some people definitely prefer that style, prompting the silver-haired girl to sigh in deep frustration at his complete lack of romantic awareness, huffing that it was a total mistake to even ask him in the first place. Before Luru can defend himself, he suddenly bumps right into a passing stranger in the hallway, quickly offering an apology, only for the polite young man to immediately take the blame instead, until our hero looks up and freezes in absolute shock as he recognizes the familiar face. Luru looks up to find a polite, freckled rookie who nervously introduces himself as Rusty. This sweet kid smiles warmly, completely unaware of the absolute chaos about to head his way, before a loud, hot-headed companion suddenly stomps over and demands Luru show some respect, pointing aggressively at our hero's beginner badge while accusing him of being incredibly rude, loudly demanding that they both immediately apologize to the supposedly legendary senior Rusty. Our boy can only blink in utter confusion at hearing that familiar name used this way, while the loudmouth proudly boasts that his freckled friend is the most accomplished rookie around, keeping up his fierce scolding without realizing just how ridiculous he actually sounds, prompting Luru to realize these must be the exact beginners Gran warned them about. As the polite freckled kid awkwardly apologizes, Luru simply cannot hold back his giggles, letting out a muffled laugh that immediately offends the loudmouth to no end, who angrily demands to know why our hero is laughing at their esteemed leader. Iris watches the silly scene unfold, quietly warning Luru that he is making things worse, though she cannot help but sigh at how easily her companion gets distracted. Suddenly, a fast-moving shadow darts past the stairs, catching the silver-haired girl's attention. Meanwhile, the angry rookie continues lecturing Luru about the great Rusty's unmatched skills, leading our hero to playfully agree that he would love to see those skills in action, right before a stray piece of paper suddenly flutters down from the upper floor, which the loud rookie catches with wide eyes, looking completely shocked by what is written, leaving Luru to look on in confusion, wondering what kind of trouble they just stumbled into. This loud rookie aggressively shoves a tournament flyer forward, demanding they settle their score in a duel, leaving a sweat-dropping Luru to politely decline, which only makes the hot-headed kid accuse him of running away, though the rookie quickly points out that they probably will not even face each other in the main bracket, prompting our hero to suggest they do not actually need a formal tournament to test their skills. However, the rookie proudly declares that the legendary senior Rusty will also be entering the competition, making Luru realize just how deeply this kid worships his grumpy childhood friend. Before their conversation can continue, a sudden presence nearby catches everyone's attention, making the rookies freeze in shock, revealing Rusty himself looking completely helpless as two beautiful girls happily cling to his arms. Recognizing his old companions, Luru cheerfully waves and calls out to them in surprise, prompting the silver-haired Yuri to wink and playfully signal him to keep quiet for now, while the energetic blonde Mia promises to explain this bizarre situation to them later, before the two girls quickly drag their embarrassed rogue friend away into the hallway. This loud rookie watches them go in absolute awe, completely amazed by the legendary seniors. While Luru and Iris quietly chuckle at how hilarious this entire misunderstanding has become, our duo prepares to head back to the clan while the rookie turns to submit his quest, but the kid suddenly stops Luru to demand his name before they part ways, prompting our polite hero to introduce himself and Iris with a warm, friendly smile. This rookie proudly introduces himself as Gaya, reminding Luru not to forget their tournament promise. before wildly swinging his quest bags in the air to celebrate his burning passion, until his teammate angrily yells at him to stop ruining the precious medicinal herbs. Luru defends the hot-headed rookie, noting that the kid is just young and reckless, which makes Iris giggle before our hero suddenly asks why she was so angry earlier, leaving the silver-haired girl completely silent as she nervously avoids his direct gaze. Quickly brushing it off with a sweet smile while claiming everything is perfectly fine, our clueless protagonist can only blink in confusion, wondering what she was actually anxious about, until Iris suggests they head back to hear the full story from Yuri and Meh. Realizing she has a point, Luru quickly agrees as they make their way back, arriving at the cozy headquarters of the Seekers of the Era clan shortly after. Inside, a friendly tavern maid looks at the duo with a deeply sympathetic expression, prompting a confused Iris to ask what she means while other members giggle nearby, wondering if this weirdly tense atmosphere has something to do with the Iron Clan. This glasses-wearing cook cheerfully explains that a hilarious situation unfolded while they were away, flashing back to the exact moment Yuri and the others were relaxing in the tavern. When the energetic elf Yumis suddenly burst through the doors with an excited shout, instantly catching everyone's attention as she loudly demands their absolute cooperation for a plan, she eagerly leans forward, announcing that she has a very special favor to ask, prompting the amused guild members to ask what kind of trouble she has found now, until Yumi slyly reveals she witnessed a hilarious scene at the Adventurers Guild earlier, explaining how she watched Luru accidentally bump right into their grumpy friend Rusty, which immediately caused a bunch of clueless rookies to start a wild fight over it. This cook explains that the wild argument somehow escalated into a full-blown tournament duel, with the mischievous elf Yumis immediately jumping on the opportunity to stir up more trouble, dragging the other girls into her chaotic plan to fully back the upcoming rookie match. Leaving our sweat-dropping hero to sigh at how consistently ridiculous his elven companion can be, Iris quietly nods along as the pieces of the puzzle finally start falling into place, realizing that the suspicious shadow she spotted earlier was indeed their troublemaking elf friend, though Luru wonders if their guild leader Gran actually agreed to this nonsense, only to hear that the two old friends are usually in perfect sync anyway. Before the glasses-wearing cook awkwardly brings up another slightly complicated living situation, reminding the duo that they were supposed to move into the headquarters today, our boy quickly clarifies that he really does not want to end up camping outside, prompting the cook to suggest they stay at one of Yumi's private properties instead, revealing that the ancient elf is actually loaded with prime real estate in the capital. Which sounds great to Luru, though he still wonders why they need to hide, leading the cook to explain the true motive behind their companion's generous offer. It turns out Yumi's wants the hot-headed Gaya to face Luru on equal terms, meaning they must keep our hero's legendary strength a complete secret from the rookies, an arrangement that would be instantly ruined if the kids saw them at headquarters, making Luru feel slightly guilty about deceiving the passionate young rookie this way. Even if having a fierce rival will ultimately motivate Gaya to train much harder, Luru realizes this secret plan might actually work out, considering their current situation. And Chiffon agrees, noting that their official clan affiliation will not be an issue if they keep quiet, teasingly suggesting that hiding their relationship to enter the tournament together is incredibly romantic, prompting our clueless hero to turn and ask Iris if she has any issues with this arrangement. With the silver-haired girl flashing a sweet, completely supportive smile while agreeing to the plan, quietly mumbling how thrilled she is to be spending so much quality time with her beloved brother, which instantly sends the gossipy cook into a teasing frenzy while Iris blushes in sheer embarrassment. Before Chiffon finally hands over a map to their new private villa so they can unpack, our boy politely asks if Yumi's is around, only to hear that the busy elf is currently occupied, promising to meet up with them later once the chaotic situation at the guild finally calms down, leading Luru to happily invite Iris to head out as she eagerly follows his lead, waving goodbye to the friendly cook and thanking her for the delicious meal before they leave, until Chiffon looks toward the stairs and calls out the hidden conspirators who were watching them, revealing the mischievous elf Yumi's and guild leader Gran casually strolling down while asking for some juice. Suddenly, 2 glasses of juice are slammed onto the counter with an incredibly intense, menacing force, as the angry cook glares at the 2 lazy seniors for dumping all this extra work on her, making Gran nervously sip his drink while admitting that keeping Luru's identity secret feels like cheating, while Chiffon sighs in deep exhaustion, complaining about being dragged into their ridiculous schemes yet again. Though the cheerful elf quickly points out that the kids willingly agreed to the whole setup anyway, leaving the suspicious cook to wonder if Yumi's secretly holds some kind of grudge against the duo. Yumi's recalls how she was completely startled by their actions a long time ago, which is why she is determined to be the one pulling the surprises this time, leaving the cook to realize just how deep this tournament planning actually goes, especially since Gran admits the entire event was secretly set up for Luru's sake. Meanwhile, a high-level meeting of the capital's top clan leaders is currently underway, where a stern-looking priestess quietly listens while taking a small bite of her food, before demanding to know why they were all suddenly gathered for this discussion. Gran casually sips his wine, completely unfazed by the tense atmosphere in the room, flashing a confident smirk as he prepares to drop a massive bombshell on them, asking the gathered leaders what they honestly think about the quality of recent tournaments. This glasses-wearing representative notes they are decent enough for rookies to practice their skills, believing the current setup is more than enough to keep things exciting for everyone. However, our guild leader decides to cut straight to the chase with his real motive, boldly announcing that he will also be entering the upcoming competition as a participant. This shocking declaration instantly leaves the other clan leaders staring at him in utter disbelief, since a special rank powerhouse like Gran is technically banned from entering rookie-level events, though he quickly waves off their concerns, asking them to hear his reasoning first, pointing out that the overall quality of new adventurers has been dropping quite drastically. This other leaders find themselves reluctantly agreeing with his harsh assessment of the situation. As the veteran clan leader Blues Soltida sadly admits that the rookies lack real motivation, this veteran leader asks if there is actually something wrong with the current generation, explaining that the real issue stems from a severe lack of genuine aspiration, which immediately catches the attention of the glasses-wearing clan leader Shui as she ponders the statement. Reluctantly agreeing that the younger generation has indeed lost their spark over the years, she notes that while young kids always dream of becoming legendary heroes, those grand ambitions quickly fade away once they face the boring reality of low-rank quests, leaving the other leaders at the table to nod along in quiet agreement. As the vice leader Monica points out that rookies never see high-level combat anyway. This makes their career path feel more like a distant fairy tale than a realistic goal, prompting Gran to declare that he intends to shatter this boring status quo once and for all, which only makes the priestess question if he really plans to enter the arena himself, warning him that crushing the rookie's dreams might completely ruin their fragile motivation. However, our guild leader casually laughs it off, bragging about a highly energetic newcomer in his clan. Smiling warmly as he admits that while he treats this kid like a rookie, he actually has zero confidence that he could defeat him in a direct fight. This outrageous confession instantly stuns the room, though Gran insists he is completely serious, leaning forward with an incredibly sharp smirk to explain his ultimate master plan, imagining a low-rank rookie rising up to defeat legendary warriors and becoming a true hero. Admitting that while it sounds like an exaggeration, it would certainly wake everyone up, before boldly inviting all the top clan leaders to join the tournament with him. This priestess immediately raises concerns about the safety of the venue if they actually get serious, but Yumi's cheerfully reassures her that the old clans will cooperate to build a massive barrier, boasting that this absolute defense will not break even under high-level magic from special-rank powerhouses, leaving the other clan leaders completely stunned by the sheer scale of this sudden cooperation, since working together with individual nations has been strictly forbidden since ancient times, making the glasses-wearing representative sweat nervously as he worries about the potential political fallout. This mischievous elf quickly waves off his concerns, bragging that she already secured everyone's permission, though she secretly wonders why the strict clan leaders approved her wild request so easily, remembering how those usually grumpy old men got unusually excited about the upcoming event. Gran suddenly raises his wine glass to command the room's attention once again, declaring that every single leader present must participate in this tournament alongside their strongest acquaintances, prompting the veteran leader Blues to flash a knowing, highly competitive smirk at the challenge, especially when Gran specifically demands they invite fighters who are widely feared as absolute monsters. Instead of backing down, the powerful leaders smile with absolute confidence at the thrilling prospect, which delights Yumi's as she praises them for being so incredibly quick to take action. Blues eagerly agrees, noting that this upcoming martial arts tournament is going to be legendary. Meanwhile, far away from the chaotic planning, a peaceful light shines through a grand cathedral window, illuminating a mysterious person kneeling in deep, solemn prayer before a sacred altar, as a beautiful blonde girl clasps her hands together with an incredibly pure expression, seeking divine guidance in the quiet sanctuary before the storm of the tournament finally begins. As the solemn prayer in the quiet cathedral finally comes to a gentle end, a young messenger rushes inside to find the revered saintess standing before him, who greets him with an incredibly warm, serene smile that instantly melts his anxiety away, humbly apologizing for interrupting his prayer as she gracefully steps down to greet him. This sudden proximity completely catches the poor messenger off guard, leaving him blushing furiously, especially when she gently reaches out to wipe the sweat from his forehead herself, sending the flustered young man into a state of absolute, heart-pounding panic over her overwhelming kindness. While she softly expresses her deepest gratitude for his tireless efforts to find her, he can only stare up at her in sheer awe, completely captivated by her benevolence, silently deciding that she is nothing short of a literal goddess walking among mere mortals. Once he finally calms down, the gentle saintess asks what urgent matter brought him here, prompting him to quickly present a mysterious flyer that contains some highly shocking news, revealing that even legendary special-class masters are officially allowed to enter the upcoming tournament, which immediately causes her eyes to widen in complete disbelief as she reads further, noticing that the notoriously isolationist ancient clans are actually cooperating to build the arena's barrier, an unexpected development since they have consistently refused to work with outsiders for centuries, leaving her to wonder what could have possibly convinced them to help the Kingdom of Leonard. though the messenger suggests this unprecedented alliance might actually be a massive turning point. Filled with a sudden, fierce resolve, she firmly declares that she must attend this event, instantly leaving the startled messenger to stammer in agreement as her intense determination completely stuns him. This messenger confirms her attendance for the upcoming tournament, prompting a gentle thank you from the saintess. She steps forward, believing this state guest invitation is divine guidance from their holy deity. Opening the grand doors, she vows to bring absolute protection to her beloved kingdom. A serene smile plays on her lips as she thinks of the citizens she must safeguard. Looking out over the peaceful city, she hopes to offer them a tranquil prayer of rest. Turning back to the kneeling messenger, she kindly suggests he rest while she consults the Pope. This overwhelming benevolence instantly moves the young man to tears of pure, unadulterated gratitude. His heart beats wildly as he stares in absolute adoration at her departing form. Suddenly, a brilliant aura of holy light begins to swirl around her graceful body. Sprouting magnificent wings of pure energy, she leaps into the sky to guide a lost world. With a final cheerful farewell, she takes her leave and soars high above the cathedral. This flustered messenger can only watch in sheer awe as she vanishes into the bright sky. But as the blinding light fades, he notices something gently drifting down toward his hands. A single glowing feather of holy energy lands softly in his open palms, leaving him to kneel in solemn prayer, clutching the sacred relic with absolute devotion. Meanwhile, a heavy boot steps sharply into a dark, ominous corridor somewhere else, revealing a pale, red-eyed man with long silver hair walking down the gloomy path, knowing very well that taking another step forward means he can never return to his old life. Just then, a familiar red-haired companion calls out from behind, desperately begging him to wait, prompting the mysterious warrior to stop and coldly ask what he has come here for. This silver-haired warrior narrows his glowing red eyes, completely caught off guard by his friend's sudden arrival. Bacchus desperately shouts that he intends to fight right alongside him no matter the cost. This emotional outburst only makes the warrior sigh, quietly repeating the name of his loyal companion. He remembers Bacchus as a rare red-haired demon blessed by the powerful spirit of fire, but firmly points out that joining this battle is a completely suicidal move for him. Explaining that absolutely no one besides himself can hope to face their enemies head-on, especially since the incredibly powerful Saintess will be standing directly in their path. Bacchus can only listen in silence as his leader continues to explain the grim reality, calling the holy woman a complete anomaly who defies all logic of the human world, wondering if her terrifying existence is actually driven by the literal will of the gods. Closing his eyes, the silver-haired warrior prepares to deliver his final, unshakable decision, declaring that he was born for the sole purpose of matching her overwhelming power, since their opposing forces are essentially two sides of the exact same cosmic coin, prompting him to order Bacchus back to his post to keep him safe from harm, flashing a rare, confident smirk as he promises he will not just die immediately. Though he warns that even her personal guards have now received divine holy armor, he gently places a heavy gloved hand on his companion's shoulder to comfort him, asking his only true friend to finally understand the heavy burden he must carry alone, leaving the red-haired demon completely speechless as his protests die in his throat, forcing Bacchus to look down and curse his own weakness in bitter, silent frustration. Bacchus desperately pleads with his silver-haired leader not to dare die out there, but Rhea simply walks away into the darkness, muttering that losing is not an option. Meanwhile, a sleepy young boy slowly blinks his eyes open as a soft voice calls out, revealing a cheerful white-haired girl pulling back the curtains to announce that morning has finally arrived. He groggily greets little Iris back, struggling to shake off the heavy weight of sleep. Complaining that having a fragile human body is honestly proving to be incredibly inconvenient, she quickly reminds him they have an early quest scheduled with Gaia and the others, prompting him to sigh as he suddenly remembers the chaotic events of the previous night, starting with the moment he opened his door to find a familiar young girl waiting, who sheepishly apologized for dropping by so late while clutching a massive bag of fresh vegetables. Confused by the sudden grocery delivery, our hero asks what the deal is with the food, which makes Gaia nervously explain that her senior forced her to bring it as an apology, leaving him to admit that simply learning how to accept guild requests is more than enough. She proudly puffs out her chest, telling him absolutely not to hold back his gratitude, insisting that she is still his senior even if they belong to completely different clans. Recalling how she used to gather simple herbs with her own parents back in the day, she eagerly promises to teach him all the basic rules of being a proper adventurer, though he already knows her parents were actually legendary high-ranking heroes in their prime. Smiling warmly as he accepts her help and tells her he is counting on her, which only gets her more fired up as she prepares to discuss their plans for tomorrow. Gaia eagerly proposes taking on a quick quest first thing in the morning to act like real adventurers, and with her usual hyperactive energy, she declares the plan officially settled right then and there, sealing the deal with a firm handshake as they both look forward to tomorrow's big debut. Though back in the present, our hero complains to Iris about how weak human bodies are compared to demons. But his grumbling stops when he walks downstairs to find Gaia and her party already eating breakfast. She cheerfully waves a piece of egg toast, announcing that they have been eagerly waiting for his arrival. prompting the polite cat-eared girl next to her to quickly apologize for showing up so early. This adorable magician introduces herself as Yu, thanking him for letting them tag along today. While the blue-haired healer Shalika expresses her gratitude for the delicious meal despite Gaya's constant troublemaking, leaving him to silently note that these two are the complete opposite of their chaotic leader. Though he admits a party with a swordsman, magician, and healer makes for a perfectly balanced team, Iris humbly hopes the food suits their tastes since she used the leftover ingredients from yesterday. But Gaya completely bypasses manners and immediately demands a second serving with her mouth full, earning a sharp scolding from Yu for being so incredibly rude to their generous hosts. This chaotic bickering only makes the siblings laugh, enjoying the liveliest breakfast they have had in ages, and after stuffing her face, the energetic senior leaps up and prepares to head out immediately, only for Iris to gently stop the group before they can even reach the front door. Our helpful host proudly presents a massive stack of homemade bento boxes she prepared for their journey, leaving the seasoned adventurers completely speechless as they open the boxes to find glowing gourmet meals, which makes her worry she overdid it, though Gaya quickly reassures her they are absolutely thrilled. Gaya's party is absolutely overwhelmed with gratitude, bowing deeply to thank Iris for her incredible kindness. And Iris happily hands over a special portion to her beloved brother-in-law with a bright smile, prompting our hero to gently open the box, completely touched by her sweet gesture, revealing a set of perfectly crafted sandwiches designed to taste amazing even after they cool down. He cannot help but marvel at how incredibly thoughtful his little sister has always been. Although he apologizes for making her go to such lengths, she insists it was no trouble, teasingly whispering that the absolute best route to a man's heart is always through his stomach. But before he can even process that, Gaya loudly calls out to get their show on the road. With a cheerful nod, Iris eagerly grabs his hand and urges him to hurry along, completely thrilled to finally take on their very first official quest as rookie adventurers, though their excitement takes a sudden hit the moment they step inside the bustling guild hall. A massive, chaotic crowd of eager warriors is already swarming the main request board, leaving our flustered hero to sweat nervously at the sheer volume of people packed inside, only for Gaya and her party to instantly ditch them and dive straight into the madness. He can only stare in utter disbelief, wondering how they are supposed to learn the ropes now, especially since the desperate scramble for quests looks more like an actual, full-blown brawl. But a familiar voice suddenly chimes in, explaining that this chaotic rush is standard for beginners. Startled by the sudden comment, our hero quickly turns around to see who spoke, finding none other than Rusty standing there with his own party, flashing a confident, friendly smirk. Glancing back at the wild crowd, he realizes Gaya and the others are already completely out of sight. Rusty greets our hero and Iris, noting it has been a while since they last spoke. But he cannot help pointing out that they look exactly like rookie adventurers right now. Suddenly, nearby guild members start whispering in absolute awe about how incredibly cool Rusty is, prompting our amused hero to tease him about being surrounded by his own fan club. Blushing furiously, the seasoned warrior desperately begs them to stop making such a big deal. Our hero finds the whole situation pretty nostalgic before asking about Rusty's earlier comment, wondering if only beginner adventurers have to deal with this chaotic morning rush. This cat-eared magician chimes in to explain that rookies must take day trips for early returns, which often leads to desperate brawls over the best quests on the board. Hearing this, our hero asks about compromise, but Shalika notes that only happens in higher ranks. She cheerfully adds that learning how to bicker is actually a vital part of the job, leaving him to realize that knowing when to back down keeps rookies alive. Rusty then looks closely at our hero, marveling at how much he has grown lately, making the young boy sweat nervously as he wonders if human growth is normally this fast. Iris quickly whispers a comforting reminder that demons naturally mature at a much faster rate, while our hero points out that Rusty speaks like a true veteran these days. With a proud smile, Rusty reveals he recently promoted to a lower-level intermediate adventurer, earning enthusiastic praise from the siblings for his incredible dedication since leaving home, though the red-haired warrior sheepishly admits his journey has not been entirely easy, recalling the brutal mock battle where a master completely flattened him back at the start. Rusty's companion expresses his deep gratitude, thanking our hero for saving them from a grim fate. Suddenly, Gaya's loud voice cuts through the air as she demands to know why they are not following. She freezes in absolute shock the moment she recognizes Rusty standing right there beside them. Panicking, the hyperactive leader quickly tries to redirect their focus back to securing a quest. Gaya grabs both siblings by the hands while shouting a hasty apology to her senior, dragging them straight back into the chaotic crowd before Rusty's party can even respond. Rusty admits he would have loved to team up with our hero's group today. However, his blonde companion reminds him they must strictly follow their guild chief's orders. Their silver-haired teammate cheerfully notes that the siblings will easily catch up to their rank anyway. This prompts Rusty to smile as he reflects on his own experiences over the past few months. He knows those two possess power that completely eclipses even the most legendary high-ranking adventurers. Meanwhile, our hero looks around the suffocating crowd, hoping to grab just any simple request. Gaya desperately screams over the noise to ask what kind of quest he wants. Our hero shouts back that a simple single-day herb gathering quest is perfect, Exchanging a knowing look, the powerful siblings decide it is finally time to get serious. They effortlessly slip through the dense crowd of veteran warriors like ghosts in the night. With blinding speed, our hero's hand darts forward and snatches the perfect quest paper. Iris easily scoops up their struggling allies to protect them from the chaotic stampede. This duo strikes a victorious pose as they emerge completely successful with their dizzy companions in tow. Luru can only sweat drop at the day's party, admitting he really dislikes crowded situations. Examining the quest paper, our hero finally understands why direct requests are so hard to secure. But this simple herb gathering mission seems completely safe and straightforward for their debut, requiring them to head deep into the quiet forest to find a specific medicinal plant. And soon the powerful siblings are happily plucking the starvine flowers from the grassy ground. Although these herbs are used for healing potions, he feels they still need to gather more, prompting Gaia to remind him that completing basic tasks is essential for rookie adventurers. Hearing her advice, the young boy takes her words to heart with a serious expression, eagerly promising to double his efforts alongside his equally enthusiastic little sister. Suddenly, Iris blinks in surprise as she notices the impressive progress of their companions, who have already filled multiple woven baskets to the brim with fresh green herbs, earning warm praise from the experienced party members for their surprisingly natural gathering skills. This seasoned adventurers assure them that they will master the routine in no time, leaving the former demon royalty sweating as they recall delegating such tedious chores to subordinates. Determined to prove themselves, the duo pushes through the afternoon as sunset approaches, dropping a massive, overflowing sack of herbs onto the ground with a heavy thud. Gaia and her friends stare in absolute shock at the ridiculously huge haul they secured. While our polite hero humbly credits their success to having such amazing mentors guiding them, their lighthearted celebration is suddenly cut short when Iris points down the dirt path, spotting a mysterious girl in traditional shrine maiden attire collapsed face down on the road, prompting the group to rush over to investigate the unconscious traveler and her tiny pet. Kneeling beside the collapsed traveler, our hero quickly checks her pulse to make sure she is still breathing. And thankfully, both the mysterious shrine maiden and her adorable little pet are still very much alive. Realizing it is getting too dark to leave them behind, he offers to carry her back himself, while Iris and the cat-eared magician cheerfully volunteer to take care of the tiny white dog. But just as the party begins lifting her unconscious body onto our hero's shoulders, her eyes suddenly snap wide open in a moment of pure adrenaline-fueled panic, shocking everyone as she instantly springs back to life and scrambles away from them, desperately looking around to see if some dangerous monster is still chasing her down the path. Suddenly, she stops and sniffs the air, crawling straight toward Iris while staring at her bag. This unexpected reaction makes the young girl realize what is actually going on here, prompting her to pull out the extra bento box she packed just in case of emergencies, which immediately causes the starving traveler's eyes to sparkle with absolute joy and drool. After getting a quick nod of approval from her brother, Iris happily hands over the meal, and the grateful girl immediately clasps her hands together to offer a polite pre-meal prayer, before absolutely inhaling the food with a ferocious appetite that leaves the siblings completely stunned. Her frantic chewing is suddenly interrupted when her tiny pet gives her a sharp nudge, letting out a loud, pathetic stomach growl that clearly demands a share of the delicious sandwich. Smiling sheepishly, she asks Iris if it is alright to share some of the human food, happily splitting the sandwich in half to feed her very special and equally hungry companion, leaving her to chew contentedly as she finally starts to recover from her exhausting ordeal. Clasping her hands together, the girl happily thanks them for the incredibly hearty meal while her dog barks, prompting our curious hero to finally ask who she actually is and where she came from, which makes the energetic traveler instantly salute and introduce herself as a shrine maiden named Kikyo, before proudly presenting her incredibly smart little white dog, Fuka, who is apparently a girl too. Our hero silently notes the dog's high intelligence before warning everyone that staying in this forest is dangerous, explaining that they need to head back to the capital and asking what she plans to do next, only for Kikyo to eagerly ask if they can tag along and get an in-recommendation. Although he feels slightly overwhelmed by her sudden request, he cannot deny her incredibly charming and irresistible aura, readily agreeing to guide her as the entire group happily sets off toward the city gates. But their plans hit a massive roadblock when the tired receptionist at the desk looks up apologetically, delivering the devastating news that every single room in the establishment is already fully booked for the night. This sudden revelation sends Kikyo straight to the floor in absolute despair, weeping over their ruined plans, while our hero sheepishly apologizes, realizing their late herb submission is the main reason they missed out. Kikyo quickly waves off his apology, admitting that finding a place to sleep is always a struggle anyway, inspiring the kind-hearted boy to offer a surprising solution by inviting her to stay at their place. Her eyes instantly widen with pure shock and hope as she processes his incredibly generous offer, and Iris warmly reassures her that they have plenty of extra rooms in the massive mansion they are renting, leaving the deeply touched shrine maiden and her loyal pet to bow in absolute gratitude for their kindness. As they begin walking together down the quiet cobblestone streets toward their temporary home, our hero finally asks the burning question of why she was collapsed on the road in the first place. Kiko sheepishly admits that she ran out of money during her travels, hoping to find some work soon, while her grumpy little dog grumbles about their terrible decision to leave the last town without food, prompting Iris to ask where she originally came from since her outfit looks so incredibly unique. Which makes the traveler pause before explaining she hails from a mysterious land in the Far East. Hearing this, our hero immediately tries to piece together her origins from his own knowledge of the world, wondering if she means the legendary country of the Taoshu craftsmen, which instantly makes her light up with joy. He recalls seeing a seasoned warrior wielding a genuine katana from that region just the other day. And Kikyo proudly boasts that swordcraft is indeed one of her homeland's most celebrated traditional techniques, leading Iris to curiously ask if her striking red and white outfit is also made using those methods. This energetic girl happily explains that her traditional attire is actually called a miko shazoku, clarifying for the confused siblings that it is worn by women who serve the gods, which makes our hero realize she is essentially a priestess who tells fortunes and grants wishes. Though he cannot help but look incredibly skeptical about how sacred she actually is. Sensing his doubt, Kikyo sheepishly laughs and admits she is actually just a low-ranking subordinate, prompting our blunt hero to tease her about how real priestesses probably do not collapse from starvation. She huffs in mock anger, desperately claiming she still understands how the world works, leaving the amused siblings to share a warm laugh at her incredibly dramatic and lively personality. This next morning, bright sunlight shines over the cozy mansion where they spent a peaceful night, and Kikyo literally cries tears of absolute joy while devouring a delicious, warm breakfast, before asking if the siblings want drinks, only for our hero to decide they should all just rest today. While stuffing her face with breakfast, Kikyo admits she needs to start looking for a job soon, but since she has absolutely no plans, our hero can only stare at her in mild disbelief, prompting him to ask the obvious question of why she is even traveling in the first place. And the young shrine maiden pauses mid-bite to explain the ridiculous circumstances behind her sudden journey. Apparently her parents and the strict high priestess who raised her ordered her to travel west, claiming her training was severely lacking and demanding she learn how to be more independent, which made her so incredibly angry that she snatched a bunch of shrine supplies and bolted, leaving the siblings completely speechless as they realize she essentially just ran away from home. When they tease her about her dramatic escape, Kikyo instantly puffs her cheeks in loud protest, though our hero cannot help but smile warmly at her incredibly honest and lively nature. He silently reflects on their own past lives, where social status and heavy expectations ruled everything, realizing that choosing to live freely and defy those rigid rules is not such a bad thing. Especially since Kikyo is clearly beloved by everyone, even if her little dog is currently biting her face. Feeling a bit envious of her carefree lifestyle, our boy decides to offer her a helpful solution, asking if she would be interested in a job opening he knows about in the city, explaining that a local tavern run by their clan is currently looking for a new waitress, which immediately catches the young girl's attention as she considers the unexpected career path. Although he warns her that the rowdy adventurer crowd makes it a notoriously difficult place to work, she confidently boasts that surviving her terrifying high priestess means she can easily handle any job. And just like that, 2 weeks quickly pass as the bustling tavern opens for another busy morning. Enjoying a warm bowl of soup, our hero wonders how their newly hired shrine maiden is holding up, only to immediately witness Kikyo sprinting across the room while dropping an entire tray of food, which instantly triggers the absolute wrath of the tavern's highly stressed-out manager, who loudly scolds the clumsy girl while our amused hero notes that she is still incredibly chaotic. Panting heavily on the floor, the embarrassed traveler suddenly hears a soft sound approaching from behind, revealing her highly intelligent little dog balancing a tray of drinks on her head with perfect grace. This smug little pup looks down on her owner, completely mocking her terrible waitressing skills, leaving our hero to sweat drop as he watches a grown girl pick a fight with a dog. He recalls the day they first arrived when the manager eagerly hired her based on pure cuteness, but reality quickly set in as Kikyo constantly mixed up orders and confused the hungry customers. To make matters worse, her extreme clumsiness led to a never-ending cycle of shattered plates and spilled drinks. Crying over yet another broken dish, the poor girl realizes her job security is rapidly slipping away, especially when she suddenly senses a terrifyingly dark and menacing aura rising directly behind her. A furious manager looms over her with a sweet but utterly deadly smile that promises absolute doom, politely asking if she should just fire her on the spot and end this daily restaurant disaster. Desperate to survive, Kikyo clings to her skirt and begs for mercy to avoid starving tomorrow. But the cold-hearted boss refuses to back down, determined to finally put her foot down this time. Suddenly, the adorable little white dog steps forward, letting out a pathetic whine while waving her paw, which instantly pierces through the manager's icy exterior and completely melts her furious heart, causing the obsessed boss to squeal in delight, proving that the dog is the real savior here. Thanks to her incredibly smart little dog Fuka, Kikyo somehow manages to keep her job, especially since the pup actually delivers orders perfectly and earns a much higher salary, leaving our hero to feel completely responsible for bringing this chaotic duo into the tavern, while the stressed-out manager warns him that every single plate might end up broken. Surprisingly, the clumsy shrine maiden is actually gaining a weird sort of popularity among customers, prompting the boss to suddenly thank our boy for another unexpected benefit of hiring her. Just then, a rowdy drunk customer grabs one of the other waitresses by the arm, demanding she hang out with him after her shift despite her clear protests, which only makes the aggressive man snap in anger when she tries to pull away. He violently squeezes her wrist, causing the poor girl to cry out in pain, making our hero sigh at how someone could get this wasted so early. But the smug manager simply smiles and reassures him that everything is totally fine, rendering him completely baffled until a sudden blur of black hair dashes past them, as Kikyo instantly intercepts the drunkard and grabs him by his sleeve, executing a flawless martial arts throw that slams his heavy body directly onto the floor. This sudden display of raw combat skill leaves our hero completely wide-eyed with shock, while the groaning troublemaker can only curse in disbelief from the hard wooden ground. Our boy quickly realizes she used precise technique rather than just relying on brute strength, where the furious shrine maiden fiercely lectures the man about respecting other people's boundaries, insisting on a full apology while pointing her finger at him to seal her absolute victory. This rowdy troublemaker lies completely flat on the floor, leaving the nearby customers utterly speechless. He quickly sits up and sheepishly apologizes, admitting he was just incredibly stressed out from work, which the cheerful shrine maiden easily forgives with a bright and incredibly warm smile. Watching from the sidelines, our hero silently admits he had absolutely no idea she could fight, while the tavern's glasses-wearing waitress notes that Kikyo has a natural gift for calming people down. She explains that since the rest of the staff is completely defenseless, having her around is amazing, leaving our boy feeling a bit flustered when she suddenly showers him with heartfelt gratitude. But her warm expression quickly shifts into a highly mischievous grin as she leans in closer, asking if he is secretly planning to go on a romantic date with Iris today. This sudden question catches him completely off guard as they stand together in the quiet tavern, making his face turn bright red while she playfully teases him about his upcoming plans. He desperately stammers that they are simply visiting a local blacksmith, though she remains entirely unconvinced, prompting him to ask how she even managed to acquire such highly classified personal information, only for her to point out that they are meeting up outside instead of traveling together. Our embarrassed hero recalls how his sister literally shoved him out the door to eat breakfast first, deciding it is finally time to head out as he bids the teasing waitress goodbye. She happily waves him off, silently wishing for her dear friend to have an amazing time. And soon our boy arrives at the bustling town square, walking past the central fountain. He quickly spots his sister waiting in the crowd, calling out to ask if she waited long, but his voice instantly trails off as he freezes in absolute shock at her stunning appearance. Standing by the fountain, Iris looks absolutely stunning in a sophisticated black dress she rarely wears, her elegant silver hair and matching ruby accessories giving her an incredibly mature and graceful vibe, which completely catches our hero off guard as he realizes just how much she has grown. He remembers her friends visiting last night, realizing they must have helped her pick this outfit, leaving him blushing furiously as he silently admits to himself that she is truly beautiful. Suddenly, he overhears some nearby guys whispering about how gorgeous she is and wondering about her boyfriend, instantly sending our boy into a massive panic over whether this actually looks like a date. Quickly shaking the thought away since he is currently stuck in the body of a teenager, stepping forward to greet her, he asks if she has been waiting long in the crowd, prompting Iris to turn around with a bright smile and warmly call him her stepbrother, which immediately relieves the jealous onlookers while our hero feels the heavy weight of their stares. Trying his best to ignore the crowd, he prepares to head toward their destination. But before he can take a single step, her delicate hand reaches out toward him, as she happily wraps her arm around his, eagerly asking about their trip to the blacksmith. Looking up at him with a dazzling smile, she asks if they should get going, making his heart skip a beat as he notices how incredibly radiant she looks today. Deciding that overthinking this situation is probably a terrible idea, he simply nods in agreement. And the two of them finally set off together, walking side by side through the busy streets. Soon, the heavy sound of a blacksmith's hammer echoing against hot iron fills the air, bringing them to a bustling workshop where skilled craftsmen are hard at work forging powerful weapons. Stepping inside the workshop, they are warmly welcomed by a cheerful clerk at the front desk, where our hero requests to have his trusty sword sharpened for an upcoming match today. But the shop's bizarre name immediately leaves him feeling incredibly confused about the owners. He recalls his past life as the Demon King, when dwarven blacksmiths were legendary for their crafting, and as the clerk hands over a receipt, our boy decides to satisfy his curiosity, inquiring why a shop run entirely by humans is named after a completely different race. This clerk explains he simply wanted to emulate the legendary mastery of the ancient dwarven craftsmen, which instantly triggers a wave of shock as our hero realizes they are spoken of in the past tense. Before he can dig deeper, another customer suddenly interrupts to ask about a weapon order, forcing the siblings to step aside and wait outside until the sharpening is fully complete. Our boy turns to Iris, wondering if the dwarves suffered the same tragic fate as their own demonic ancestors, as he desperately tries to piece together why such a legendary race would just vanish. He remembers that the peaceful dwarves actually shared their incredible blacksmithing expertise with everyone, making it highly suspicious that they disappeared while the elves and beastmen still thrive today, ultimately leaving our hero deeply unsettled by this massive gap in the world's history. This mystery makes him wonder if human civilization is currently declining because the dwarves are gone, though his sister points out they have absolutely no way of confirming that theory right now. She suddenly remembers his desire to visit the royal library back when they first arrived, and she suggests they finally head there today since they actually have some rare free time. Agreeing with her plan, he hopes to uncover some hidden truths about the ancient demon tribe. Flipping through a massive stack of dusty books in the quiet library, Iris searches for answers, but she quickly sighs in disappointment after finding absolutely nothing new about the ancient world, prompting our hero to realize that his own memories of the demon tribe are far superior, especially since the records only state that the dwarves and goblins suddenly vanished without a trace. He admits that he never expected entire legendary races to just disappear from history like that, leaving them with zero clues about what truly happened after the Great War with humanity. Iris suggests that their only remaining option might be to physically go and dig up ancient ruins, though our boy finds it hard to believe that a massive civilization left no written records behind. Suddenly, a brilliant idea strikes him as he decides to consult a professional for better information. Leading the siblings straight to the front desk to speak with the library's head receptionist, he politely asks the glasses-wearing woman if she knows of any other places holding historical texts, which makes her pause thoughtfully before admitting she has heard rumors of highly classified documents. She explains that there are legendary ancient books containing the deep secrets of the past, located deep within the royal palace's heavily guarded and highly restricted library. This shocking revelation immediately catches the siblings off guard as they process this dangerous new lid, but the receptionist quickly warns them that these forbidden archives are strictly off-limits to everyone, leaving our hero to realize that the government is actively hiding the truth from the public. Looking at the chained books in his mind, he knows they contain secrets he must uncover, briefly contemplating whether he should just sneak into the royal castle under the cover of darkness. However, he remembers his father's government job, realizing a reckless heist would only bring ruin to his family. Desperate to read those forbidden archives, our boy asks the receptionist if there is any loophole, prompting her to mention an upcoming tournament where the grand champion gets to make a royal request. Iris immediately turns to him, pointing out that winning this event is his golden ticket, which makes our hero casually declare his victory before the competition has even started. This supreme confidence leaves the librarian completely exhausted by what she assumes is pure delusion, while his sister playfully decides that if her beloved brother-in-law is taking first place, she will gladly settle for second, flashing him a highly mischievous and confident grin. Leaving the library behind, the siblings stroll back onto the cobblestone streets of the city, discussing how a simple research trip unexpectedly handed them a direct path to the palace. Our boy warmly thanks his sister for tagging along, making her blush and look away, as she secretly wonders if he actually liked the elegant outfit she wore today. She recalls sitting in her quiet room last night, questioning if he only views her as family, remembering how her energetic friends eagerly pushed her to dress up for this special outing. Though she protested that a trip to the blacksmith hardly qualified as a fancy date, her friends ruthlessly teased her about how incredibly clueless our hero can be with girls. They insisted she go all out with a mature look to finally grab his attention, leaving the poor girl blushing furiously as she remembers their passionate advice from last night. But as they walk side by side in absolute silence, her hopes begin to slowly fade. She realizes with a pout that he truly did not say a single word about her dress, knowing that even if he did notice, his dense personality would keep him completely silent. Walking beside him, Iris silently begs for him to notice her outfit or at least say something. But her thoughts are suddenly cut short when a vibrant splash of color catches her eye, stopping right in her tracks to stare at a beautiful pot of white flowers lining the street. Our hero looks back in confusion as she quietly admires the pretty marguerite blossoms sitting on display, prompting him to bluntly ask if she wants one, which instantly sends her into a flustered panic. She quickly waves her hands, sheepishly explaining that she was simply caught up in their natural beauty, admitting she has never really felt drawn to flowers like this at any point in her life. Staring at her with a thoughtful expression, our boy silently processes her words for a brief moment, before abruptly telling her to wait right there as he turns back toward the shopkeeper, leaving the poor girl completely baffled as she watches him walk away without another word. He casually approaches the stand to purchase one of the potted plants, much to her utter shock, and soon walks right back over to hand the beautifully wrapped gift directly to her, explaining that since she has faithfully looked out for him over the last 7 long years, this simple gesture is just his small way of finally showing some genuine appreciation. Flashing her a rare, incredibly warm smile, he gently asks her to accept the thoughtful present, which leaves Iris absolutely speechless as tears of pure joy begin to well up in her eyes. A rush of childhood memories floods her mind, recalling how she was always on the receiving end, never imagining back when she wielded dangerous dark magic that such a peaceful future lay ahead. Eagerly reaching out to take the flowers, she softly whispers her heartfelt thanks to her beloved stepbrother, making our usually cool hero blush intensely as he tries to play off his sudden embarrassment. Clutching the potted flowers tightly to her chest, Iris smiles warmly despite his warning about her dress, while our hero watches her with a soft expression, realizing she still views him as family, but she secretly cherishes this rare moment of closeness, her heart fluttering with pure happiness. Quickly apologizing for her sudden emotional outburst, she looks up at him with absolute adoration, promising to take incredible care of the beautiful gift he just bought for her. As they blend back into the bustling crowd, she silently wishes these peaceful days would last forever, soon arriving at the main street where an overwhelming sea of people has gathered, prompting Iris to excitedly point out that the grand tournament's opening ceremony is finally starting. The sheer scale of the event is massive, drawing eager spectators and powerful competitors from overseas, though our boy remains focused on his own goals rather than the festive atmosphere around them. Until Iris suddenly unleashes a terrifyingly dark aura, wishing the ancient demon nation had similar events. While nearby onlookers swoon over her mature beauty, our hero sweat drops at her intense demonic nostalgia. But his attention is abruptly pulled away when something unusual catches his sharp eye, spotting a highly unique and incredibly ornate carriage rolling slowly through the crowded streets. A nearby civilian suddenly gasps in shock, pointing toward the vehicle with a trembling hand, which immediately alerts the siblings that this carriage belongs to none other than the saint. Whispers spread through the crowd about the holy nation of Arca sending a high-ranking representative, as the beautiful blonde saint peers through the curtains with a mysterious, knowing smile, leaving the excited onlookers completely starstruck while our hero silently processes this unexpected arrival. He turns to Iris, noting how the legendary title of saint certainly brings back some ancient memories. Our boy reasons that since the original saint was only human, this new one must be a successor. But Iris remains completely silent as a sudden, chilling realization begins to dawn on her, slowing her pace on the cobblestone street before quietly calling out to her brother-in-law, wondering if that legendary holy maiden could have also gone through the reincarnation process. This heavy question instantly sends a massive jolt of shock straight through our hero, forcing him to admit that there is absolutely no reason she could not be reborn too, especially since the original saint was a ruthless monster who slaughtered demons without a single shred of mercy, making him realize that Iris is in extreme danger and must run the moment they cross paths. A terrifyingly dark aura suddenly erupts from his body as he vows to take her down, leaving his sister completely paralyzed with fear as she senses his hidden, monstrous power, feeling an overwhelming pressure so intense that her knees practically want to buckle right there, instantly recognizing the unmistakable, terrifying presence of the legendary demon king standing right before her. However, the heavy tension melts away as he gently places a hand on her head, reassuring her with a warm smile that he can easily handle a single saint. She instantly brightens up, her cheeks flushing red as she happily accepts his comforting words, and soon enough the duo finally arrives at the bustling venue for the opening ceremony. Scanning the massive crowd, they spot several armed warriors preparing for the upcoming matches, though Iris loudly complains that none of these weaklings look like a real challenge, which immediately draws some incredibly hostile glares from the massive, angry competitors standing nearby, prompting our boy to quickly remind his sister that street fights will get them disqualified. Iris quickly blushes and apologizes, realizing she let her inner battle-hungry demon slip out, which only makes our hero smile as he notes how incredibly fired up she is, realizing that her deep-rooted demonic instincts might actually make her his toughest opponent in the arena. Suddenly, a loud voice echoes through the stadium speakers, calling for the crowd's undivided attention. The siblings sit side by side as the announcer hypes up the start of the kingdom's grandest event, officially kicking off the highly anticipated tournament to a roaring sea of excited spectators, before asking the massive crowd to quiet down for a very special opening address. Stepping up to the balcony, the ruler of the land warmly commands everyone to be seated, introducing himself to the massive audience as King Griffith of the Leonard Kingdom. While our boy whispers to Iris about the king's stellar reputation for being incredibly wise, she eagerly reminds him of the ultimate prize, confirming that the champion gets any single wish granted, as the king continues his speech by thanking everyone who helped organize this year's event, specifically highlighting a distinguished guest who was responsible for setting up the arena's defensive barrier. An elderly elf named Latos steps forward, introducing himself as a proud elder of the ancient clan, prompting our hero to wonder if this incredibly old elf might actually know his former ally Yumi's, but the elder quickly clarifies that his neutral clan is strictly forbidden from taking sides. He reassures the nervous foreign delegates that their powerful barrier will be dismantled immediately after the finals, leaving the rest of the tournament's success entirely in the hands of the competing warriors, who must now step up to deliver the ultimate entertainment for the next thrilling week. As the crowd erupts into thunderous applause to show their deep respect for the ancient elder, as the ancient elf elder steps back from the balcony with a subtle, knowing glance, our hero is instantly caught off guard, wearing a look of sheer confusion, wondering if that incredibly powerful old elf was actually staring directly at him just now. He quietly asks Iris if she noticed the elder's gaze, but she only looks back blankly, forcing him to shrug it off as his own overactive imagination playing tricks on him. Suddenly, the announcer's voice booms through the stadium, introducing the next highly anticipated VIP guest, revealing the gorgeous blonde saintess as she gracefully steps up to the balcony with a smug smile. Our boy's eyes widen in shock as he locks his gaze onto this legendary holy maiden. This entire stadium falls dead silent as the crowd eagerly awaits her opening address, while she stands confidently before the massive audience, radiating an air of absolute perfection. Staring intently from the stands, our hero realizes this is indeed the saintess of this era, who warmly greets the cheering crowd with a sweet voice that echoes throughout the massive arena. She introduces herself as Charlotte Mom, a proud representative sent directly from the sacred theocracy, prompting Iris to lean in and whisper that she looks remarkably like the original saintess, explaining that even though she has only seen old portraits, the physical resemblance is uncanny. However, as they compare her to the memories of the ruthless monster from their past life, our hero notes that her face and overall aura are not quite the same. Realizing that if she were truly the legendary Holy Maiden, she should possess massive divine energy, Iris agrees that she cannot sense a single trace of holy power coming from her either, meaning this new saintess might not actually be a threat they need to worry about. Just as they let their guard down, the saintess begins channeling a massive wave of energy, sending a sudden, overwhelming surge of holy power directly toward the shocked siblings. This warm light washes over Iris, instantly purifying her demonic aura and making her feel incredibly light. But our hero immediately recognizes this specific energy as the exact same divine magic from their past, realizing it matches the terrifying power wielded by the ruthless Holy Maiden who hunted them down. Grabbing his sister in a panic, he stares up in absolute disbelief at the unfolding spectacle, as massive glowing wings of pure holy light erupt from the floating saintess's back. She hovers gracefully above the balcony, putting on a spectacular show for the starstruck crowd, before offering a gentle smile and wishing a divine blessing upon every single spectator in attendance. This nearby priest bows deeply in gratitude, praising her holy generosity as the crowd goes wild. Looking around, our boy notices that the entire audience looks completely refreshed and energized by her spell, prompting him to quickly check on Iris, who happily assures him she is perfectly fine. This announcer quickly takes back the stage to introduce the next high-ranking foreign delegates, while our hero silently broods over the fact that this tournament is going to get incredibly messy. Once the opening ceremony finally wraps up, the siblings blend back into the bustling evening streets, leading Iris to quietly ask if that woman was truly the legendary saintess from their past life. Our boy confidently shakes his head, explaining that the two holy maidens are definitely not the same. Comparing the ancient warrior who fought the demon king to this modern representative of the sacred theocracy, this confident assertion leaves Iris completely baffled, wondering how he can be so incredibly sure of himself. He explains that while this new woman certainly wields holy energy and uses something resembling divine magic, he explains that those glowing wings are actually an ancient, highly advanced magic from the past, which means modern humans should not have any way of casting it in this era. Turning to Iris, our hero asks if she ever actually fought the original saint face to face, reminding her that the legendary warrior used to vaporize entire armies of demons with a single spell. Since Iris is still standing here completely unharmed, it proves this new girl is not that monster. His sister admits she only felt slightly breathless rather than being instantly erased by the holy light, leading them to conclude that this representative is likely just a successor with some ancient connection. Still, our boy cannot shake the feeling that something incredibly fishy is going on here, especially since her face and her divine magic are far too similar to be a coincidence. He promises to teach Iris some quick defensive countermeasures to keep her safe from any holy attacks. This very next morning, the highly anticipated first round of the tournament qualifiers finally kicks off, pitting our hero against an overenthusiastic young swordsman who charges forward with a loud battle cry. Although he feels a tiny bit guilty about crushing a kid's dreams so early on, our boy effortlessly sidesteps the attack and delivers a swift, decisive blow to end the match. He calmly advises the defeated boy to yield, since that is simply how this competition works, before pocketing the fallen opponent's golden badge to secure his second point of the day. Crouching down, he recalls that the rules require him to collect 5 badges before the sun sets, but his sharp senses suddenly pick up a dangerous spike of hostile energy nearby, forcing him to leap backward just as a massive burst of fire scorches the cobblestone street. A mysterious robed challenger steps out from the shadows, casually complaining about missing their target. Our hero smirks as he questions the rules about avoiding property damage in the city, especially since his opponent just tried to roast him with a sudden blast of fire magic, leaving a tiny scorch mark on the cobblestone street while our boy remains completely unfazed, which absolutely terrifies the young challenger who realizes she just poked a sleeping giant, prompting her to immediately turn tail and flee before he can even think about retaliating. Since the tournament organizers are not stepping in, he decides to just roll with the chaos, casually pocketing the badge of the first kid who tried to ambush him earlier, noting that the kid actually had some decent tactical potential for a beginner. Walking through the busy streets, he overhears some bystanders gossiping about bold newcomers, pointing out a nervous-looking warrior who is desperately trying to avoid any intermediate-level fights, and while our hero could easily hunt him down for a quick point, he decides that picking on the weak is simply beneath his legendary standards. Suddenly, a group of panicked young mages dashes past him in absolute terror, screaming that they cannot run anymore as Iris pursues them with a menacing pink aura, forcing one of the girls to stop and desperately cast a defensive water spell, while her companions quickly back her up by unleashing their own fire and wind magic. Their combined elemental attacks collide in a massive explosion that completely engulfs the street, leaving the exhausted trio momentarily relieved as they believe they finally stopped their pursuer. But their relief instantly turns to pure horror as the smoke begins to clear, revealing Iris walking forward completely unharmed after casting a chantless defensive spell. Standing amidst the clearing smoke, Iris flashes a terrifying smile and asks if this is their end, which completely shatters the remaining confidence of the three young mages as they burst into tears, sending their panic screams echoing through the city streets while birds scatter into the sky. Meanwhile, a cute little white dog casually strolls down the cobblestones carrying a heavy sack, drawing the immediate attention of nearby spectators who wonder if it belongs to some powerful summoner, especially since none of the actual tournament participants are brave enough to steal from it. This clever pup eventually stops in a quiet alleyway and begins scratching at a large wooden barrel, letting out a sneaky little chuckle as it waits for its master to respond. Suddenly, a cheerful young girl pops out of the barrel to praise her loyal companion, Fuka. She happily pours out a handful of shiny golden badges, realizing they finally have enough points, prompting her to hug the dog and promise to upgrade its daily meals as a reward. Watching this bizarre scene unfold, the local bystanders realize she was just hiding the entire time, though they quickly admit that letting a pet do all the work is actually a genius strategy. After all, summoners usually become incredibly vulnerable targets whenever they send their beasts into battle, so the spectators warmly cheer her on, which she accepts with a bright, grateful smile. This girl enthusiastically declares that she and her pup are going to work hard for 5th place, leaving the crowd completely dumbfounded as to why she is not aiming for the grand championship instead. Turns out, the 5th place prize is a legendary tablecloth that magically produces 3 free meals a day. While it is undoubtedly a highly valuable artifact, the onlookers still find her motivation incredibly hilarious, joking that she must be desperately starving despite her massive appetite at the local tavern. Explaining her master plan to her loyal pup, the young summoner sets her sights on 5th place, dreaming of the legendary tablecloth that will finally allow them to eat until they are completely full, which means their only remaining strategy is to hide out until the preliminary round officially ends. Right on cue, the giant city bell rings out to signal the end of the first round, prompting our hero to dump his massive sack of collected badges onto the registration counter, where the receptionist happily confirms that he has officially passed the very first stage of the tournament. She comments on his impressive haul, forcing him to nervously laugh it off as pure luck, before she instructs him to keep a single badge on his person for the upcoming matches. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls out to congratulate him on a job well done, revealing Rusty and his energetic party members standing nearby with proud smiles on their faces. Our boy asks if they all managed to qualify, and they confidently confirm their collective success, detailing how they split into separate teams to secure a highly strategic victory across the city. However, Rusty nervously inquires about Iris just as a loud metallic jingling sound echoes nearby, as the white-haired demon sister and the summoner girl dump absolute mountains of badges onto the desk. This ridiculous display of dominance leaves Rusty and his crew completely speechless at their terrifying efficiency, leading Rusty to sweatily suggest they all head over to the local tavern for a celebratory meal. This hungry summoner immediately cheers in agreement, leaving our hero wondering how she gathered so many badges, while Iris warmly praises her brother and suggests they go replenish their energy for tomorrow. And with a confident smile, our boy agrees, eagerly anticipating the chaotic second round of the tournament. Meanwhile, a mysterious robed woman walks gracefully down a quiet hallway, her heels clicking against the floor. This mysterious saintess decides it is finally time to make her move behind the scenes, tracking down an elderly elf walking slowly down the hallway with a wooden cane, calling out to him as Lord Rados and begging him to wait for a moment. Turning around with a polite smile, the old elf asks what business she has with him, prompting the anxious saintess to nervously prepare herself for a very tense political conversation. She quickly apologizes for the sudden interruption before bringing up the topic of national defense, but Rados immediately shuts her down by reiterating that elves never share their technology. Confused by this strict rule, she points out that hosting this tournament is a massive exception, leaving the elderly elf to stroke his chin while pondering her persistent questioning, before he asks if she can respect their sacred teachings just like her own faith. This comparison catches her completely off guard, making her wonder what kind of teachings they follow, though Rados quickly laughs it off, claiming their ancient faith is a closely guarded secret. He explains that certain secrets must remain hidden from outsiders, especially for a prominent religious leader, asking if she can understand his perspective, which leaves her completely speechless and sweating. Clenching her hands tightly, the saintess backs down and apologizes for wasting his precious time, politely inviting him to watch the rest of the tournament matches by her side. She flashes a bright, friendly smile, claiming she is genuinely looking forward to his company, while the old elf happily agrees, matching her polite demeanor with an equally warm grin. Shaking hands to seal their temporary truce, they bid each other a safe farewell. Meanwhile, a massive explosion rocks the arena as the chaotic second round of qualifiers officially begins. Silvio is declared the winner of his match as his opponent lies defeated on the ground. Watching from the stands, our hero asks Iris if the second round is a standard one-on-one tournament, while their energetic companion confirms that the matches are happening simultaneously across several different arenas, narrowing down over 1,000 initial hopefuls to just 200 surviving competitors for this stage, which makes total sense to our boy since hosting everything in one arena would take forever. Iris giggles, pointing out that this round will finally test their raw individual combat skills, eagerly looking forward to analyzing the diverse fighting styles of the other top-tier contestants, since their own matches are scheduled for much later in the afternoon. Our hero decides to sit back and scout the competition as the announcer calls the next duel, introducing a hyped-up rising star named Mia who has been making massive waves lately, whose opponent happens to be a hulking warrior wielding a terrifyingly massive battle axe, a seasoned brute named Greffus who looks ready to crush his tiny opponent into dust. Whispering among themselves, the worried crowd wonders if the small girl should just forfeit immediately. But Iris just smirks knowingly, whispering that the giant is actually the one who is completely outmatched in this fight as the referee signals for the battle to begin. Greffus immediately unleashes a devastating downward swing that completely shatters the stone floor, only to realize his target has already vanished, leaving him looking around in utter confusion, as Mia suddenly appears right behind him with her sword crackling with intense yellow lightning, unleashing a blinding elemental strike that instantly paralyzes the massive warrior in his tracks, leaving the giant flat on his back as she casually claims an effortless victory. Mia is declared the winner after easily overcoming the massive size difference in her match, which makes our hero proud to see how much she has improved since leaving their village. Next up is Yuri's match, drawing massive squeals from the excited fangirls in the crowd, as her opponent, a handsome knight named Lord Ortez, waves confidently to his adoring fans. Naturally, the jealous guys in the audience immediately start praying for his spectacular downfall, while our hero notes that Ortez actually possesses some serious skills as a pure swordsman. This makes him worry since Yuri is primarily a rear support mage facing a close-range fighter, but Iris calmly reassures him that their friend will be absolutely fine. Standing in the center of the arena, Ortez prepares to face his opponent, who is introduced as another rising star making waves for her incredible beauty. As the referee signals for the highly anticipated duel to officially begin, this smug swordsman politely suggests that Yuri should just surrender to avoid getting hurt. Smiling back, she respectfully declines his offer while casually preparing her magic wand, boldly claiming that she is definitely not weak enough to be defeated by him. His polite facade instantly cracks as her blunt rejection strikes a major nerve, wondering aloud if she is foolishly misjudging his combat prowess based on his looks. Drawing his blade with a sharp ring, he promises to show her his true power, immediately lunging forward with a blindingly fast strike to catch her off guard. Instead, Yuri remains completely unfazed, calmly chanting a spell to summon her sword spirit. Suddenly, a glowing green phantom blade materializes out of thin air, blocking his strike effortlessly. Ortez's jaw completely drops as he stares at the massive obstacle blocking his path. A towering armored spirit clad in glowing green energy looms directly over the arrogant swordsman, leaving him stumbling backward in sheer disbelief as he tries to comprehend what just happened, while Yuri casually stands behind her summon with a smug, highly satisfied grin on her face. She proudly explains that this powerful guardian is a spirit summoned through her own magical prowess, sending shockwaves through the crowd since only top-tier mages are capable of pulling off such high-level spells, and Ortez quickly realizes he has never seen a summon of this caliber in his entire life. He desperately tries to recall the short chant she used just a moment ago, wondering how she managed to cast such advanced magic with only a few ancient words. Watching from the stands, our hero praises Iris for training their friend so incredibly well, though the demon sister tells him to hold his applause until the match is officially decided. Back in the arena, Ortez politely apologizes for underestimating her but refuses to back down, gritting his teeth in frustration because losing this early is simply not an option for him, so he leaps forward once again, pouring all his remaining strength into a desperate overhead slash, only for the giant spirit to effortlessly deflect his blade with its massive glowing sword, making him realize that getting past this armored wall to target Yuri is completely impossible. Our boy notes that the swordsman is actually making the right tactical decisions under pressure, but Iris coldly points out that his movements are simply far too slow to succeed, as the giant spirit swings its massive blade down to deliver a devastating final blow, leaving Ortez flat on the ground as the referee officially declares Yuri the winner of the match. Yuri is officially declared the winner, basking in the loud cheers of her adoring new fanbase, which our boy considers a passing grade even if the match felt a bit too close for comfort. Prompts Iris to point out that Rusty is the only member of their group left to fight, but our hero confidently smiles, declaring that his very first disciple will not go down so easily, leaving the demon sister to giggle, fully agreeing that the disciple of a literal demon king cannot lose. Right on cue, the announcer calls up the next match, introducing a highly discussed mid-level adventurer, revealing a visibly shaking Rusty as he steps onto the arena floor, sweating bullets from pure anxiety. And Iris immediately notices his nerves, though our boy defends his student's humble nature compared to the others. Suddenly, a group of older women in the crowd starts cheering wildly for the cute rookie, forcing our hero to sweatily realize that Rusty has somehow captured the hearts of local big sisters. Looking across the arena, Rusty's opponent steps forward, clad in the heavy armor of a royal knight, prompting Iris to comment on how diverse the tournament is, even mentioning that shrine maidens are competing. A revelation that completely catches our boy off guard, making him turn around in utter confusion, only to find the young summoner and her pup waving fans and cheering for Rusty from the stands. Our hero wonders when they even got there, just as the referee tells both fighters to prepare. As the battle officially begins, both swordsmen draw their weapons and size each other up. But the knight pauses, recognizing Rusty's stance and asking if he is the disciple of Lord Caddisnora, causing Rusty to nervously scratch his cheek, admitting he might not be the favorite student, explaining that his master's other disciple is actually participating and is leagues stronger than him. This news shocks the knight, who politely apologizes before expressing his ultimate dream of facing their master himself. This knight smugly explains that the legendary master himself laid out the terms of their potential duel, claiming that defeating his beloved disciple is the only way to earn a match with him, which completely blindsides poor Rusty since he has absolutely no idea what his opponent is talking about. But the enthusiastic knight is already sparkling with excitement, determined to defeat both disciples to reach his goal. Watching from the stands, our hero facepalms in utter disbelief while wondering what kind of promises his father made, prompting Iris to giggle and point out that his dad probably just got pressured by a passionate plea. Imagining a hilarious flashback of a desperate warrior prostrating himself on the floor until his father finally gave in, leaving our boy to sweatily realize he might actually have to fight this guy if Rusty somehow loses. Realizing the stakes, he quickly stands up and decides it is finally time to cheer for his disciple, while the energetic shrine maiden hands him a pair of traditional folding fans to boost their cheering game. And before long, the two are enthusiastically waving their fans and screaming Rusty's name at the top of their lungs. Down on the arena floor, Rusty focuses on his opponent, bracing himself for the kingdom's elite knightly tactics, before suddenly bursting forward with a brilliant golden aura of pure mana enveloping his entire body. Clashing blades in a spectacular first strike that sends powerful shockwaves rippling across the entire stone arena. This incredible display of speed catches the knight completely off guard, making him grin with genuine excitement, though Rusty quickly slides back to regain his footing, clicking his tongue as he prepares his next move. Up in the stands, our hero watches intently, thoroughly impressed by how much both fighters are holding back. Sensing his opponent's true strength, Rusty flashes a confident smirk, realizing the knight is still holding back, which leads the smug swordsman to suggest they finally end their little warm-up and unleash their true power. As both warriors unleash their massive elemental auras, preparing for an absolute clash of titans in the arena. Watching from the stands, the young shrine maiden is amazed by Rusty's high-level mana channeling. Since our boy taught him external body enhancement while his family taught him internal mana flow, Rusty is actually capable of layering both advanced techniques simultaneously, completely shocking the onlookers. Our hero smiles proudly, remembering how much effort his first disciple put into his training. Ever since he was a kid, Rusty worked tirelessly to achieve his dream of becoming an adventurer, pushing himself to the absolute limit just to stand on this grand stage and win. As their swords clash with a deafening ring, the intense battle finally reaches its climax. This seasoned royal knight clearly holds the upper hand when it comes to pure swordsmanship, forcing Rusty to realize he needs to make a decisive move before he gets overwhelmed. With a fierce battle cry, the young apprentice lunges forward with all his remaining strength, but the knight effortlessly deflects the strike, leaving Rusty completely off balance and vulnerable. Up in the stands, the worried shrine maiden gasps as Rusty's weapon is swiped away, leaving him wide open as the knight's massive blade comes crashing down on him. It looks like a total disaster as the crowd braces for a brutal defeat. While the young summoner panics, our hero keeps his eyes glued to the arena floor, suddenly noticing a confident smirk spreading across his disciple's face in the face of danger. In a flash, Rusty slips right under the heavy swing to deliver a flawless counterstrike, sending the knight crashing to the ground as our boy realizes it was all a bait. Overjoyed by the brilliant tactic, our hero stands up and cheers loudly for his student, who proudly raises his hand to soak in the thunderous applause of his spectacular victory. Walking back to the group, Rusty excitedly calls out to Luru as he approaches his friends, waving his hand high in the air while eagerly asking how they liked his performance. Our boy warmly welcomes him back, offering some well-deserved praise for a job well done, specifically pointing out how clever his bait-and-switch tactic was at the very end of the duel. Meanwhile, Iris commends the girls for keeping up with their training after leaving the village, prompting Rusty to ask if they are all heading over to watch Gaya's upcoming match. Deciding to go together, they arrive at the fifth venue just as a fierce battle begins, where Gaya is already dominating the arena, leaping through the air with her sharp claws bared, sending her opponent crashing to the dirt as he desperately tries to reach his dropped wand. But with her claws at his throat, the defeated mage has no choice but to surrender. Watching from the stands, Rusty and the others cheer loudly for her incredibly swift victory, though some spectators note that her opponent simply suffered from an incredibly bad elemental matchup. Rusty explains that since the tournament brackets are decided by a completely random lottery system, our boy sweatily realizes that survival in this event relies heavily on sheer luck, which is bad news for a scrawny young rookie currently shaking in his boots, because he has been matched against a massive, battle-scarred veteran who towers over him. As the referee signals for the duel to begin, the kid nervously braces for impact, but the seasoned warrior surprisingly smiles, casually offering to give him a free head start. Grinning with sudden confidence, the rookie happily accepts the offer and prepares to strike first, while our hero notes that this lopsided match is basically just a friendly public sparring session. Watching from the stands, Luru asks if these quick defeats are a common occurrence. And Rusty can only smile, admitting it is pretty brutal to get knocked out immediately. Down in the arena, the rookie swings his sword with everything he has left, but the veteran effortlessly shuts down his attack with a single, crushing parry, leaving the young challenger gritting his teeth in absolute frustration as his weapon slips away, before he crashes hard onto the dirt, prompting the referee to quickly call the match. Back in the stands, Rusty politely notes that facing such a strong opponent is great experience, while Iris reminds them that they need to meet up with Gaya's group next. Walking through the bustling streets, a heavy sigh echoes from their defeated young companion, who is still completely depressed about drawing an advanced rank warrior in his very first round, though Rusty warmly pats his shoulder, praising him for putting up such a great fight. As the rest of the girls catch up, exchanging compliments about their own successful matches, this sudden encouragement instantly fires the rookie up, prompting Rusty to ask Luru about his next opponent, only for our hero to casually admit he has not even bothered to check yet, leading the group straight to the venue's public bracket board to see the official matchups, where Rusty excitedly points out that their matches are scheduled for the main Statron arena. Before his eyes suddenly widen in absolute horror as he reads the actual names, realizing that Iris has been matched against an incredibly dangerous advanced rank adventurer, while Luru is set to face a legendary special class mage from the Jester's library, leaving our oblivious hero to tilt his head and ask who that even is. Rusty panics upon realizing his opponent is a lower-tier special class adventurer from the capital, though he tries to reassure himself that this gentle-looking mage might actually go easy on him. Meanwhile, his freckled childhood friend remains highly skeptical despite Rusty pointing out his recent victory over his father, admitting that while he heard about the win, he still cannot help but worry as a friend. This anxious young warrior cannot believe his buddy has to face such a high-ranking opponent, suddenly grabbing Rusty and desperately begging him to just forfeit the match before things get ugly, forcing our hero to sweatily step in and remind them that this is not a death match. But the frantic senior completely ignores him, demanding that Rusty surrender the moment danger arises, reminding him that he only has one life to live while our boy watches with a wry smile. Luru quietly notes how surprisingly protective the older boy is toward those he considers his little brothers, prompting Rusty to happily agree that he cannot afford to put on a lame performance now. Before his duel can begin, however, Iris is called up first as her friends offer their support, and she confidently promises to fight in a way that will make her brother-in-law proud. Stepping out into the massive, roaring coliseum, she prepares herself for the ultimate test of her skills, only to find a smug, pink-haired warrior clad in dark armor waiting for her on the field, who chuckles softly while sizing up the highly discussed rookie standing right in front of her, specifically calling Iris out by her name and clan as the tense battle is about to begin.